Chapter 1811. 1 month is already very short for a cultivator who has suffered from qi deviation. Elder Zhang smiled bitterly. Plus, I said 1 month at most. Although the fruit is a miraculous medicine, the time it takes to wake up depends on the practitioner's constitution. St. Hall. So that's how it is. Tang Yin nodded and said, Then the ingredients on the prescription. Those are just normal ingredients. You can buy them all at the pharmacy. Elder Zhang said. Meng Yao nodded. It seemed like she was the only one who could take on this mission. Meng Yao took the prescription from Elder Zhang and put it away solemnly. This was something that could save Lin Yi's life, after all. She couldn't afford to neglect it at all. Miss Chu, Miss Qin, you can leave the valley now. Elder Zhang said to Meng Yao and Yushu. The ceremony and the disciple acceptance ceremony are about to begin. You are not from the valley, so you can't stay here. Meng Yao looked at Tang Yin and the unconscious Lin Yi. She didn't know what to say. Elder Zhang, can I send them off? Tang Yin knew that since the decision was made, she couldn't change it. She could only accept it. However, she could fight for it. She could walk with Yao Yao, Shu and Lin Yi and never see them again. St. Hall. All right. Elder Zhang was a kind man. As long as Tang Yin's request wasn't too difficult, he would agree. Meng Yao and Yushu packed their bags. Yushu was the one who carried Lin Yi here. But now, there were disciples waiting at the entrance with a stretcher. Yushu didn't need to carry Lin Yi anymore. They would help carry Lin Yi out of the valley and onto the car. It wasn't a long journey from the guest room to the car outside the valley, but it seemed especially short under Tang Yin's feet. Even though you've escorted me for 1,000 miles, we still have to part ways. Tang Yin's eyes stared at Lin Yi's face blankly, a hint of reluctance in her clear eyes. I want to see your face, clearly. Perhaps this separation will be eternal. But at this moment, I'm very proud and happy. I'm finally no longer that helpless vase. I won't be a burden to you anymore. When we meet again, I can proudly tell you that I can finally help you. But at that time, you might not remember me anymore. There was a smile on Tang Yin's face, but she couldn't stop her tears from covering her eyes. Her vision was foggy, as if she'd suddenly returned to her 12th year of high school, the small path where she met Lin Yi, the first date under the shade of the tree, the romantic night in West Star Village. These would become memories forever, buried in the deepest part of her memories, memories that belonged only to her. The person in his memories would also no longer remember this sweet past that no one cared about anymore. Tang Yin twirled the diamond ring on her finger. Her face was filled with determination. Yao Yao, Shu, I'll leave Lin Yi in your hands. Take good care of him for me. From now on, there will be no Tang Yin in his life. Meng Yao pursed her lips and listened to Tang Yin's words. Tears flowed down her eyes uncontrollably. She used to hate Tang Yin, but now, she really didn't want to part with Tang Yin. She really didn't want to. Yun, sis, I'm so touched. Yushu also cried at this moment. She realized that Tang Yin's position in her heart was no less than Meng Yao's. She knew that this separation might be forever. Tang Yin was different from Xiao Xiao. Her heartless arts made it impossible for her to return to Lin Yi's side. However, the three of them didn't say it too clearly. It was enough for them to understand each other's meaning. They didn't need to be too obvious. After all, the forgetfulness herb was for Lin Yi, not Tang Yin. They were afraid that Elder Zhang would find out. St. Hall, people have their ups and downs. The moon waxes and wanes. It's hard to be perfect. Elder Zhang walked over and sighed. You win some, you lose some. Let's go back. Tang Yin nodded and looked at Lin Yi one last time. Then, she turned around and walked toward Snowy Valley. Elder Zhang sighed again and quickly followed. Only Meng Yao, Yushu, Lin Yi, and a few disciples from Snowy Valley were left here. Please go back. After the disciple put Lin Yi in the car, he said politely to Meng Yao and Yushu. Although his tone was polite, There was an irresistible majesty to it. "Let's go." Meng Yao pulled Shu, who was staring at Tang Yun's back in a daze. Yushu nodded and got in the car with Meng Yao. The sound of an engine sounded, and the car started smoothly. This car had been specially modified by Tianlong, and there was no need to worry about it starting in the snow and ice. Meng Yao and Yushu, however, weren't in the mood to think about the car at this moment. Their hearts were all heavy. Their destination was West Star Village. This time, they had to go back and tell old Lin about it. Once they were done, they would go back to Songshan. Not far from the carriage was the snowy valley. It was bustling with noise and excitement. The annual sacrificial ceremony was held earlier than usual. This time, the snowy valley held the ceremony and the disciple acceptance ceremony at the same time to show how much they valued Tang Yun. With Tang Yun's physique, even the great elder didn't dare to call himself her master or inheritor. She walked on a different path of cultivation. In Tang Yun's path of cultivation, the great elder could only help and guide her. Most of the time, Tang Yun had to comprehend on her own because her physique was something that even the great elder didn't have. So, the grand elder accepted her as a disciple under the name of the founder. The main character of this worship ceremony, Tang Yun, was standing on the stage, quietly. There wasn't a trace of a smile on her cold face. She didn't look happy at all. However, no one dared to question her. Even the grand elder thought that Tang Yun's personality changed after consuming the forgetfulness grass. It was an honor to be the center of attention. At this moment, Tang Yun was like the ruler of the snowy valley. Everyone was respectful to her. Even the grand elder and Sydney were polite to her. However, Tang Yun wasn't happy at all. She wanted Lin Yi to see how she looked right now. She didn't have to hide behind him anymore. She could hold up half the sky for him. But this wish would never come true. Target equals _blank. Normal people could use it as well, and Pingzhan's current condition required him to take a great recovery pill first, followed by the meridian opening pill. These two pills, however, were quite expensive. The meridian opening pill was a little lacking, but the great recovery pill was something even the Sky Elixir sect didn't have many in stock. Not only was it difficult to concoct a great recovery pill, but it also required very rare treasures. It was only natural that it was priceless. And so, Palace, Lord One, had a bitter expression on her face. The relationship between the Dark Palace and the Sky Elixir sect wasn't good at all. They wouldn't even be able to get half a normal pill from the Sky Elixir sect, much less a great recovery pill. The Dark Palace had their own refiners, but they were only at the first level of the golden class. They could barely make the meridian opening pill, but the great cyclic pill was out of the question. But even if it was the meridian opening pill, One thought that the Grand Elder would be the first to object if she asked for it for Pingzhan, wouldn't he? With that thought, Wan Er's eyes dimmed. "I'll try my best." Elderly understood what Wan meant, but he didn't have the confidence to ask for these pills. He was an elder of a sect, but it could be said that the rarity of the Dark Palace's pills was even higher than those of the hidden houses, since the Sky Elixir sect would sell a batch of pills that weren't too rare in the public auction every year. But the Dark Palace and the Sky Elixir sect had a tense relationship, and the Dark Palace couldn't bring themselves to bid on the auction. With the Dark Palace's identity, they naturally wouldn't do something like ordering other hidden houses to bid for the pills. Meng Yao and Yushu, on the other hand, didn't run into any more danger on the way back, and the robbers didn't show up again. They had to find their way there, but they were familiar with the way back. After a few days of hard work, they finally made it back to West Star Village. But although Lin Yi's problem was solved, the Miss and Shu weren't happy at all. The cost of Lin Yi's recovery was too heavy. They went with 4 people, but came back with 3 people. One of them had to stay in Snowy Valley, and they might not be able to meet again. Old Lin's heart sank when he saw Meng Yao and Shu getting out of the car, but Tang Yin wasn't there, and Mo Kongwen had already warned him about this. but seeing it happen now, old Lin still couldn't accept it. Yao Yao, shoo, where's Yun Yin? Old Lin couldn't help but ask. She stayed in Snowy Valley. Ming Yao's face didn't look too good as well. She was the only one who didn't come back. Stayed in Snowy Valley? What do you mean? Old Lin asked in a low voice, looking at Emo Kongwen with a strange expression. Meng Yao couldn't hold back her tears at the mention of Tang Yin, and this made old Lin even more worried. Could it be that something bad happened to her? Old Lin asked with a serious face. No, according to my guess, Tang Yin stayed in Snowy Valley. Emo Kongwen looked at Meng Yao and Yushu and asked. He had already guessed something from their expressions. In fact, from the moment Tang Yin left the West Star Village, Emo Kongwen had already predicted her fate. However, he was powerless to change it. He didn't have the ability to defy the heavens and change her fate. He had already seen through Tang Yin's fate stayed in Snowy Valley. Old Lin was startled. Yes, Yun stayed in Snowy Valley. Meng Yao sobbed and told old Lin and Emo Kongwen what happened. Even though Emo Kongwen had guessed Tang Yin's fate, he still opened his mouth wide when he heard that Tang Yin accepted the inheritance in Snowy Valley. It's the beginning of the month, readers reading on their phones. Please vote for the fishman, thank you. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1813. She could accept the inheritance. One had to know that even a suitable inheritor needed a process and opportunity to understand and accept the inheritance. But Tang Yin completed the process as soon as she went to Snowy Valley. They didn't know if it was a blessing or a curse. As for Tang Yin giving the forgetful herb to Lin Yi, old Lin and Emo Kongwen were touched. It wasn't easy for this girl to go this far for her lover. If that's the case, then follow Tang Yin's wishes and keep this a secret forever. Don't let Lin Yi know about it. Old Lin shook his head lightly and sighed, or else it would be a waste of Tang Yin's effort. Both of them would be in extreme pain. Meng Yao and Yushu nodded after listening. Yes, Tang Yin didn't use the grass of forgetfulness. She would definitely be in extreme pain, and there was even a risk of qi deviation. If Lin Yi knew about this and saw Tang Yin who had heart of ice, he would probably be in even more pain. The only way to get the best of both worlds was to never let Lin Yi know about this. It was a little unfair to both Tang Yin and Lin Yi, but there were some things that they had no other choice. After such a long delay, you guys should be starting school soon, right? Old Lin asked. Not really, we applied for East Ocean Industry University. The new students start school in October, Meng Yao said. Of course, it's another matter if we can't get in. That's good. Meng Yao said that, but old Lin naturally wouldn't worry about Meng Yao not getting in. Not to mention the fact that Meng Yao's grades were there for all to see. Even if she couldn't get in, with Pengzhan's power, she could still go to school. But it's about time. You guys should go back now, right? Yeah, other than bringing General Weiwu and Skybolt Pig away, we're also here to say goodbye to you. Meng Yao said a little sad. Grandpa Lin will definitely come back to visit you when we're free next holiday. It doesn't matter if you visit me or not, but when you're free, go visit Tang Yin behind Lin Yi's back. She'll be very happy, you guys. Old Lin said, Yes, I will. Meng Yao nodded. All right, let's not talk too much. Rest here tonight and go on your way tomorrow. Old Lin said, Okay, we'll go say goodbye to Air Gooden. Also, Grandpa Lin, can you leave us your contact? Meng Yao said. Lin Yi had old Lin's number before, so she didn't record it down. If Lin Yi didn't wake up, she might have to trouble old Lin again. Old Lin said, It's in Lin Yi's phone. I'll go get it for you. Old Lin said. Lin Yi didn't bring his phone, nor did he turn it on. He left it in his room. This was the last night Meng Yao and Yushu would spend in West Star Village. It had been a long journey, but the two didn't feel too tired. They stood in the familiar courtyard, and it was as if they had returned to that night when they first arrived at West Star Village. When they were eavesdropping on Lin Yi and Tang Yun's whispers under the fence, the scenes from that time were right in front of their eyes, but so far away. Things were the same, but people weren't. Shoo, let's go rest. We still have to get up early tomorrow. Meng Yao sighed and pulled Shu's hand into the room. Yao sis, do we still have a chance to live with Tang Yun sis in the future? Yushu asked. Maybe, maybe not. Who knows what will happen in the future? Meng Yao suddenly smiled. You're asking me something you don't even know about Prophet Shu? Prophet Shu isn't omnipotent. Yushu mumbled to herself as she followed Meng Yao back into the room. But if Meng Yao and Yushu were more attentive, they would realize that they were the main characters tonight, and the eavesdroppers were Old Lin and Amo Kongwin. You said that someone will be sacrificed. Tang Yun will be staying in Snowy Valley, right? Old Lin asked. Probably. Some things can't be predicted in detail, and this is the best ending. Amo Kongwin said, Old friend, it's time for you to leave, right? Old Lin asked. Yeah, it's time for me to go back now. Amo Kongwin said, You still haven't understood the practitioner's arts he left behind. Old Lin asked, It's not that easy. Amo Kongwin smiled bitterly. You know that the qi here is very thin. Other than Lin Yi's jade pendant, I didn't go to that place back then. It's so hard to break through. You're right. Let's work hard together. I need to take that step if I want to leave Star West Village. Old Lin sighed. The next morning, Meng Yao drove Yushu, Lin Yi, Weiwu, and Skybolt Pig out of Star West Village. She'd arrived in front of all the villagers. But Meng Yao kept a low profile when she left, avoiding the crowded areas and going on the road quietly. On the way, Meng Yao wanted to contact her father and tell him that she and Shu were back, and that Pingzhan was out of danger as well. She wanted to let him know that she and Shu were back, and that Pingzhan was out of danger as well. Meng Yao didn't think much of it when the call didn't go through, thinking that her father was in a meeting or in the underground parking lot. But it had been so many days, and Pingzhan's phone was still turned off when she called again. Hours after that, Meng Yao was starting to panic. And so, she dialed Faubert's number, but it got through this time. Miss Chu. Faubert picked up quickly, but his voice sounded a little low. Is that you? It's me, Faubert. What's wrong? Your voice sounds a little hoarse. Are you sick? Meng Yao paused, but didn't mind. Where's my dad? Why's his phone off? Mr. Chu. Faubert hesitated. He thought that Meng Yao was alone, and it might affect her mood if he told her about Pingzhan's car accident. It'd be even worse if she got into trouble because of her impatience. And so Faubert said, He's very busy these few days with that big project. Miss Chu, is there anything I can help you with? Target equals _blank. Chapter 1814. I see. Meng Yao didn't suspect anything. Faubert, tell Dad that we're almost home. It's about a day's journey. Meng Yao said, All right, I understand, Miss Chu. At this point, Uncle Fu paused for a moment. Give me a call when you're back. All right, I got it. Meng Yao hung up the phone, relieved as she continued her journey. After another day of driving, Meng Yao finally saw the Songshan toll station sign. Both Meng Yao and Yushu let out a sigh of relief as they exited the toll station. They were finally back. This trip to Star West Village wasn't as happy as they had imagined, but they experienced a lot of things. The two had matured quite a bit after this experience. We're home, it feels so good, Yushu said sincerely. Yeah, I'm finally home. Meng Yao drove the car back to the Sea View Bay Villa area with ease. But the scene in the house shocked her the moment she opened the door. In the living room, there are several bags and luggage piled up in a mess. If it weren't for the familiar furniture, Meng Yao would have thought that she had entered the wrong house. Yao, did we get a burglar? Yushu said, surprised. Burglar? We have more things now, not less. What kind of burglar would put things in someone else's house? Meng Yao, glared at Yushu with a bitter smile as she walked over and opened the bags and luggage. She was even more surprised after opening them. "Shu, look, aren't these your things?" "Yeah, these are my clothes." "Who moved them into the villa for me?" Yushu was curious. Weren't these things supposed to be in her villa? Why were they moved into Mengyao's villa? "Wait, let me ask Faubert." Mengyao took out her phone and called Faubert. "Miss Chu, you're back?" Faubert picked up quickly. "Yeah, Faubert, I'm back. But why is the villa so messy? It seems like all of Shu's things were moved in." Mengyao asked, confused. "Miss Chu, wait for me. I'll tell you when I get back." Faubert hesitated. Some things were better said in person. "Yeah, okay." Mengyao didn't realize at all that her family was about to be destroyed. Faubert didn't say anything else as he looked at Pingzhan's body covered in tubes and wires through the ICU window. His eyes reddened as he turned around and left. The car recorder proved that Pengzhan had committed suicide, and the driver wasn't responsible for the accident. The company that the driver worked for only gave Faubert a few tens of thousands of yuan as consolation money, and the rest of the medical expenses were naturally covered by Faubert himself. But now that Pengzhan Industries was in the hands of someone else, Pengzhan and Lin Yi's shares were all under in Mingyue's name. The small shareholders who used to follow Faubert around were now like a completely different person. Pengzhan had been hospitalized for a long time, and other than a few old business partners who came to visit him with some consolation money, the small shareholders were all busy sucking up to the new chairman. No one came to visit Pengzhan at all. What surprised Faubert was that Guangbua, on the other hand, brought his son Xie Jinlong to the hospital with 200,000 yuan in one go. Faubert couldn't help but sigh at the fact that a shareholder who was kicked out of the company could do something like this. It was quite rare. Guangbua, on the other hand, had made it very clear that his son was saved by Lin Yi, and that was more than enough to offset any other grudges. This 200,000 yuan was also for Lin Yi's sake. Faubert, on the other hand, had saved up some money over the years. After all, he was following Pengzhan, and he didn't have to pay for his living expenses himself. Other than the medicine he used, the rest of his salary was saved up. Guangbua's 200,000 yuan was enough to cover the surgery and medical expenses. But looking at the daily medical bills, Faubert didn't know what to do. The surgery fees were settled for now, but where was he going to pay for Pengzhan's medical expenses in the future? Faubert didn't even want to spend money on public transportation. Right now, Faubert was trying his best to save every cent he had. After all, he had no source of income, and the more he spent, the less money he had. Fortunately, Faubert was a runner, and his walking speed wasn't tiring. He arrived at Mengyao's villa in no time, but when Mengyao opened the door, she was surprised to see Faubert walking in without a car. "Faubert, you didn't drive?" "Miss Chu, let's talk inside." Faubert smiled bitterly. Mengyao was confused, but she still let Faubert into the villa. When the three of them sat down on the sofa, Faubert noticed that Lin Yi and Tang Yin were missing. He couldn't help but ask, "Where's Lin Yi and Tang Yin?" "They're not here." Mengyao and Yushu looked at each other, a bitter smile on their faces. Mengyao didn't want Uncle Fu and her father to worry, so she didn't tell them about Tang Yin staying in Snowy Valley. Now that they were home, however, Mengyao didn't need to hide it anymore. She told Uncle Fu everything that had happened. "So you're saying that Lin Yi hasn't woken up yet? And Tang Yin is staying in Snowy Valley and can't come back?" Faubert looked at Mengyao and Yushu, stunned. He didn't know what to say. Originally, Faubert had placed all his hopes on Lin Yi. After all, Lin Yi's medical skills were superb. As long as Pengzhan's life was saved, Lin Yi should be able to cure him. He could see that Lin Yi was very good at healing his meridians and Wu Qintian and General Wei Wu's wounds. Plus, Lin Yi's social connections were very deep. He maintained good relationships with all the noble houses. Although Pengzhan Industries was gone, with Lin Yi's connections, it wasn't impossible for them to make a comeback. So, Faubert was very happy when he heard that Meng Yao was back, but now, not yet, but the people in Snowy Valley said that he should wake up in about a month. Meng Yao said, "Right, Faubert, what's with the things in this house? I think they were all moved from Shu's house." "A month? There's still a month." Faubert frowned deeply. Facing the huge expenses every day, Faubert was already struggling to make ends meet. Lin Yi still needed a month to wake up, and when he woke up, he might not even be able to recover his strength. Could Pingzhan hold on until then? Target equals _blank. Chapter 1815. Of course, it wouldn't be a problem if he had the money to pay for the medical bills. But if he didn't, then Pingzhan could only wait for death at home. "Faubert, what's wrong?" Meng Yao noticed Faubert's weird behavior. "I was talking about the things in this house." "Ah, you're talking about things." Faubert finally understood Meng Yao's question, but he sighed deeply. "Yao, actually, something big happened at home." "Something big?" Meng Yao paused. "What happened?" "Mr. Chu. His investment failed and he killed himself." Faubert knew what kind of blow this news would bring to Meng Yao, but he couldn't hide it from her. "What?" Meng Yao stood up abruptly, looking at Faubert in disbelief. "Faubert, what did you say? Dad killed himself?" "Mr. Chu's investment failed, and he committed suicide by crashing his car. Although he didn't die on the spot, he's still in the hospital's intensive care unit. He's still in critical condition." Uncle Fu nodded and said in a heavy voice, "I wanted to tell you about this earlier, but I was afraid you'd worry and get distracted while driving, so I waited for you to come back." "I'm sorry, Miss Chu." "Faubert, don't say that." Meng Yao was devastated, but she knew that Faubert was thinking for her sake. After going through Lin Yi's deviation and Tang Yin staying in Snowy Valley, Meng Yao was a lot stronger and more mature than before. She was worried about her father's safety, but she endured the pain and asked, "Faubert, what happened? How did Dad lose his investment?" "I'll have to start from the deal with House and—" Faubert said as he told Meng Yao about Pingzhan and in Mingyue's deal. He said helplessly, "I tried to persuade Mr. Chu to stop while he was ahead, but it was like he was possessed. He insisted on mortgaging his property and shares, and he lost everything in the end." "I'm really sorry, Miss Chu." "Faubert, it's not your fault." Meng Yao's tears gushed out when she heard that her father crashed into a speeding car when he had nothing. But she didn't blame Faubert. She knew that Faubert never interfered with her father's investments. Even if Faubert tried to persuade her father this time, her father wouldn't listen to Faubert completely. "Miss Chu, Mr. Chu isn't out of danger yet, but there's still hope." "My condolences. As long as there's life, there's hope. When Lil Yi wakes up, we might have a chance to make a comeback." Faubert's eyes flashed coldly. "We'll get back what we've lost." "As long as there's hope." Meng Yao nodded, feeling a little better. But from the second half of Faubert's words, she could sense something else. "Faubert, are you suspecting something?" "Miss Chu, I don't have any proof, but House in—" Faubert's eyes flashed with anger again. "I'm afraid that Howson didn't have any good intentions from the start. It's just that I can't find anything wrong with them. Are there any problems with the trading records?" Meng Yao asked. "There's nothing wrong with them, but the trading was done overseas, and the records were only provided by Mingyue. I can't find the original records." Faubert shook his head. "Don't tell me it's possible to lose everything and lose everything." Meng Yao was a little surprised. She didn't know much about futures, but she had seen stocks before. Even if a stock lost money, it shouldn't be a loss, right? They're using margin trading, so 100% loss is normal. There's no problem with that. Faubert said, "But I'm afraid that these trading records are fake, made up by someone. It seemed that no one was an idiot. House and may have done it flawlessly." But Faubert still had his suspicions. House and didn't care, though. So what if they had suspicions? It was a foregone conclusion. House and Meng Yao wiped away her tears, remembering the name. Miss Chu, this villa doesn't belong to us anymore. It belongs to Hao Xin, but Jiangwen said that he's your friend, and he didn't want you to be homeless. That's why he fought with his father to keep the villa. Faubert said, I don't know if Jiangwen's part of it, or if he's being sincere, but it's best if you don't interact with them in the future. I know. Meng Yao didn't expect that the villa wasn't hers anymore. She looked at the familiar scene and felt a little sad. So Shu's stuff was moved here? Yes. Uncle Fu nodded and said, By the way, Miss Chu. Faubert, why are you still calling me Miss Chu? How am I a rich young miss? Just call me Yao Yao. Meng Yao was a little sad after what she'd gone through. All right, Yao Yao. I don't have much money left, and Mr. Chu's medical fees haven't been settled yet. Can you take out the pocket money in your card and give it to me first? Uncle Fu didn't bother with the details and asked directly. Of course. Meng Yao said naturally, but her face changed slightly. Wait, I don't have any money left. You don't have any? Faubert paused. We were robbed on the way. With that, Meng Yao told Lin about the dangerous scene on the road, and how Shu was able to turn the situation around with her quick wits. Man, money is just a worldly thing. It's fine if it's gone, but right now we don't have any money. Faubert naturally wouldn't blame Meng Yao. In that situation, he would have given her 5 or 10 million, let alone 1 million. Maybe I should ask my brother how much money my family can take out? It's hard to say if it's a lot, but a few 100,000 should be possible. Yushu's family wasn't rich. Her parents were researchers, and her grandfather was retired. Her brother's salary wasn't that high either. Other than his own living expenses, there wasn't much they could save. No need to ask. House Chin and House Song's money was probably all lent to Fatty Lai. Faubert shook his head. He knew about the bankruptcy of Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company. If Fatty Lai still had money, Faubert would have gone to borrow it already. He wasn't familiar with him, but with his relationship with Lin Yi, it wouldn't be a problem. The problem was that Fatty Lai couldn't even protect himself now. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1816. Meng Yao and Yushu knew about Fatty Lai's situation as well, and they all fell silent at the thought of his situation. Holy church! Forget it! I'll think of something. You guys just came back. You should rest first. Faubert stood up, but how was he supposed to think of anything? He was just trying to comfort himself. Back when the sect was annexed, his master, wife, and daughter were nowhere to be found. From then on, Faubert changed his name to Li Fu and followed Pingzhan. Other than Pingzhan, what other relationship did he have? I want to go to the hospital to see my dad. Meng Yao said, All right, let's go. Faubert nodded. After settling Linny down, Meng Yao brought Yushu and Faubert out of the villa quietly. Meng Yao wanted to drive, but Faubert stopped her. Yao Yao, don't drive. Gas costs money. Save it for when you need it. Okay. Meng Yao let go of the car door apologetically and walked out of the villa with Faubert, Songshan's first people's hospital. A delicate and pretty girl with a somewhat haggard expression was quietly standing outside a thick glass wall. She was looking inside the glass wall at a man lying on a white hospital bed. His body was full of tubes and wires, but his expression was very serene. Beside her was a middle-aged man and a voluptuous girl who was shorter than her by a head. Yao Yao, I just asked the doctor. If there are no accidents, Mr. Chu should be able to pass tonight. Faubert said, You don't have to worry too much. That's good. Meng Yao breathed out in relief. Faubert, thank you for taking care of him these days. What are you talking about? Mr. Chu and I are old friends. Faubert waved his hand. Let's leave. There's no point in standing here. And Meng Yao said as she looked at her father, her heart aching a little as she looked at him. Why at this time? Why did things happen to the people closest to him? Her father, her best friend Tang Yin, and her male friend Lin Yi. It was as if they had all agreed to meet. Something happened at the same time. Misfortune never comes alone. Meng Yao had experienced it firsthand. Fortunately, everything was developing in a good direction. As long as his father could survive for a month and wait for Lin Yi to wake up, everything would be fine. Yes, everything will be fine. Meng Yao and Yushu went back to the villa, and Faubert went out to discuss the medical fees. Meng Yao and Yushu, on the other hand, didn't calm down at all. When they went home to check on Lin Yi, they suddenly remembered that Lin Yi needed money to buy medicine as well. The prescription Elder Zhang gave them didn't lack rare ingredients, and although they could be bought in a pharmacy, the price wasn't cheap at all. This wasn't a problem for the old Meng Yao, as she could just swipe her credit card, but now her father's medical fees, Lin Yi's medical fees. What should she do with this money? Did she have to go back to the Snow Valley and ask Tang Yin for it? Shu looked at Meng Yao, who was holding the prescription, with a stiff face. Naturally, she thought of this as well. Yao Yao, sis, do you have no money to buy medicine for Shield Bro? Yes. Meng Yao nodded. She sat on the side of Lin Yi's bed in pain. She looked at Lin Yi's skinny face and sighed. I don't know how to contact Xiao Xiao. Maybe I can borrow some money from her. Yushu thought of her best partner. Sigh. At this moment, Meng Yao suddenly realized that she was the most useless one here. Without the Miss Halo, she couldn't even be compared to Tang Yin. Before, when Tang Yin was feeling inferior, she tried to comfort her. Now that she thought about it, it was a joke. At least Tang Yin knew how to make barbecue. But what about her? She didn't even know how to make money. Besides, Tang Yin had made the biggest sacrifice for Lin Yi. It could be said that Tang Yin's sacrifice was unparalleled. What about her? She thought about herself. She was still acting arrogant in front of her. Just thinking about it made her blush. Ding dong. The doorbell rang. Meng Yao and Yushu were confused. Who would come at this time? Faubert just left. It shouldn't be Faubert coming back. But when Meng Yao arrived at the villa's entrance, she saw someone she didn't expect to see. It was Jiang Wen. Seeing him, Meng Yao's face darkened. Before, because of her father, although Meng Yao hated this person, she still pretended to be polite to him. But now it was time for them to completely fall out. Jiang Wen, what are you doing here? Are you here to see a joke? Meng Yao was expressionless. She looked at Jiang Wen coldly. She had no intention of opening the door. Yao Yao, what are you talking about? Why would I want to see a joke? We were childhood sweethearts who grew up together. Uncle Chu is also my elder. I'm also very sad that something like this has happened. Jiang Wen said painfully. I heard that you came back, so I came here to see you. You're spying on me? Meng Yao asked coldly. Ugh. Jiang Wen's face turned awkward. It's not that I'm spying on you, but the property of your villa belongs to House Anne's company now. This place hasn't been taken back yet because I tried my best to get my father to fight for it in front of Uncle and Grandpa. But now that you're back, the management company will naturally call us. Then shouldn't I thank you? Meng Yao humphed lightly, as if she didn't care about Jiang Wen's words. Yao Yao, I know that you might be dissatisfied with Howson's decision, but what I want to say is that Howson is also a victim in this matter. Jiang Wen smiled bitterly. You're a victim too? Acting pitiful? Meng Yao naturally didn't believe Jiang Wen. Yao Yao, let me in. I'll tell you the details. I'm here to clarify things with you. It's not good for people to see me standing at the door like this. Jiang Wen said, Let you in. Meng Yao wanted to say, let you in. Are you dreaming? Why should I let you in? But then she remembered that this villa didn't belong to her anymore. Jiang Wen was the real owner, and she was living under someone else's roof. At that thought, Meng Yao sighed helplessly. She opened the door. Then come in. I'd like to see what you have to explain. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1817. Indeed, Jiang Wen was right. Ping Zhan was the one who asked for more investments. and Ming was the one who tried to talk him out of it. Meng Yao was even more certain that Ming didn't want to lend the money, telling Peng Zhan to stop. But it was her father's stubborn insistence that Ming had no choice but to agree to Peng Zhan's request. After that, it was Peng Zhan's request to withdraw his investments, and Ming had warned him about the risks involved. But Peng Zhan still insisted on withdrawing his investments. This made Meng Yao a little sad, thinking about how her father was doing this for her. She couldn't hold back her tears. These recordings were enough to prove House N's innocence, and it was only now that Meng Yao believed that it was an accident. After all, she couldn't really say anything in front of evidence like this. Even if House N really did play some tricks, it was Peng Zhan's own fault. She tried to talk him out of it so many times, but he still wouldn't listen. Who could he blame for losing the money? Yao, this time, do you understand our family's pain? Jiang Wen smiled bitterly. Actually, we didn't get anything out of this at all. We basically used this money to buy these shares and properties. Can you send me the recordings of these phone calls? Meng Yao took a deep breath. Faubert didn't know about this, and House and didn't explain much to Faubert. St. Hall as far as Jiang Wen was concerned, he had to explain it to Meng Yao personally for this to work. He had other things to do, after all, and this was just a prelude to get close to Meng Yao. Of course, Jiang Wen nodded. But here's a video of the signing. You can have a look. With that, Jiang Wen opened the video of Peng Zhan and Ming signing the contract. Of course, the video was edited, and there were some things Meng Yao shouldn't have seen. Meng Yao looked at her father's happy face after getting the money, and she knew that her father had done this out of his own volition. This meant that House N really didn't have much to do with it. Of course, Meng Yao had forgotten about the hypnotist as well. But who would have thought that there was a hypnotist involved in this? Moreover, even an ordinary hypnotist would find it hard to do such a flawless job. Of course, a hypnotist from the Firewolf gang was a different story. The Firewolves were all experts in the study of the human body's potential and limits. Hypnosis was also a way to stimulate the human body's potential. If Meng Yao had been thinking from a normal perspective, she wouldn't have suspected a hypnotist at all. All right, I believe you. This matter has nothing to do with you. Meng Yao was a straightforward person, and she had no reason to suspect House and in front of all this evidence. It's fine. If people don't know the truth, they'll really suspect us. Jiang Wen smiled bitterly. I'll send it to your phone now. Meng Yao nodded. I understand it's not your fault. It's Daddy's fault for being too impatient. Is there anything else you need? Here's 100,000. I heard that Uncle Chu really needs money right now, so I took out half of my private stash and gave it to you. Jiang Wen said as he took out the 100,000. He was a little apologetic. Because of what happened before, my father's position in the company has been temporarily revoked, so my pocket money has been reduced a lot. This is all I can give you. Meng Yao really wanted the money, but she didn't want to owe Jiang Wen anything. She wouldn't have cared about 100,000 in the past, but now she really wanted it. She didn't want to owe Jiang Wen a favor just because of 100,000, and that was something she didn't want to owe Jiang Wen a favor. Oh, give it to me. Yushu took the money from Jiang Wen's hand and said, I'll take it. It was Jiang Wen's turn to feel helpless. He took out the 100,000 to get on Meng Yao's good side. He didn't want Meng Yao to feel like he owed her, but at the very least he wanted her to think that he was treating her well. But it was different now that Yushu took the money. He didn't need Yushu to owe him anything. He just wanted to get as far away from this bad girl as possible. But since Yushu had taken the money, he couldn't take it back. Not only would he lose face, but it would also make Meng Yao feel like he wasn't giving her the money with sincerity. It wasn't worth it. And so Jiang Wen said without hesitation, It doesn't matter who I give it to, it's for Uncle Chu. It's a token of my sincerity. Thanks. Meng Yao felt a little better now that she didn't have to take the money herself. Right? Yao, the amusement park belongs to us now. but Uncle is planning on developing the land around the amusement park. Are you interested in joining in? Jiang Wen finally revealed his main purpose for coming here. What do you mean? Meng Yao frowned. The amusement park belongs to your family now. What does it have to do with me? Uncle's planning on building a safari park near the amusement park. After all, it's surrounded by mountains and rivers. It's a beautiful environment and Songshan lacks a big zoo. So Uncle's planning on training me and putting me in charge of this project. Jiang Wen said, Yao Yao, I'd like to invite you to join in the development. Me? What for? Meng Yao still didn't understand what Jiang Wen was planning. Yao Yao, actually, I feel really bad seeing Uncle Chu like this. These properties belong to us now, but I think it's just temporary. As long as I work hard, I'll definitely get them back for you. Jiang Wen said. Get them back for me? Meng Yao looked at Jiang Wen, surprised. Was there something wrong with this guy? Yeah, if I perform well, then I'm sure Grandpa will agree to it. But the prerequisite is that you have to be with me. If you marry me, then it'll be perfectly justifiable for me to help you get these properties back. After all, you're my wife, and these properties belong to House Chu. Even if Uncle objects, Grandpa will definitely agree. Jiang Wen said proudly. In the third generation, Grandpa likes me the most. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1818. In actuality, it was true that Olden liked Jiang Wen, but it was also because Jiang Wen was the most capable one, and his position in the Firewolves had been rising. Olden, on the other hand, was an outer disciple of the Firewolves. His dream back then was to enter the core of the Firewolves and become a core disciple. One had to know that core disciples of the Firewolves could become practitioners, and Jiang Wen, if he did a few more things, the Firewolves would probably give him foundation-building pills to help him train. Marry you. Meng Yao smiled. She finally understood what Jiang Wen's goal was. He wanted her to marry him, and as for developing an amusement park, it was just a way to build up their relationship. As long as their relationship was built up, everything else would be fine. Meng Yao smiled. She finally understood what Jiang Wen was trying to say. But Meng Yao didn't like Jiang Wen at all. Even when the temptation was right in front of her, Meng Yao didn't move. She didn't know why, but there was a belief in her heart. If Linny woke up, then everything would be fine. Even if she lost a lot, as long as Linny was there, then she could make a comeback. Yeah, you know that even if I'm loved by Grandpa, if you weren't my girlfriend, Grandpa wouldn't agree to me returning all these properties to you. Jiang Wen opened his hands and smiled bitterly. Yao Yao, you might think that I'm taking advantage of you, but this is the only way I can think of. Besides, I really like you. I'm sorry. I still need to go to school. I'm not interested in this theme park. Meng Yao shook her head, rejecting Jiang Wen's suggestion. Sigh, in any case, I'm just saying, you should think about it. After all, I don't want you to lose House Chu's properties. I heard that it was your grandpa's hard work. Jiang Wen said, Thank you, but I'm not thinking about marriage or work right now. I still need to go to college. Meng Yao said, All right, I won't disturb you then. Give me a call when you've thought it through. Jiang Wen said, Wait, you said you want to build a zoo? Yushu asked suddenly. Yes, Xiaoshu. You also helped me to persuade Yao Yao. After all, we all want to help her. Jiang Wen nodded. Although he didn't like Shu, she was the closest person to Meng Yao. Meng Yao would listen to her if she tried to persuade her. Are you guys buying a lot of animals? Yushu asked. Of course. How can there be no animals in a zoo? Jiang Wen didn't know why Yushu was asking this, but he answered honestly. That's good. I have a lion here. I'll sell it to you. It doesn't have to be too expensive. Just 200,000 or 300,000 will do. Yushu demanded. Ah. Jiang Wen paused, not knowing what to say. It's better to make a cooked one than a raw one. We're already so familiar with each other, and Yao Yao needs money. You won't reject it, will you? Yushu asked. Ugh, I'll buy it, of course. 300,000, right? All right, I'll talk to Uncle about it. I'll definitely buy it. Jiang Wen was troubled. His cooperation with Meng Yao didn't work out, and he got a lion for nothing. Jiang Wen had heard that Yushu got a lion from Shao family's Gohuli, but he didn't think that he'd be the one to buy it. More importantly, the zoo was a project he came up with on a whim. The goal was to get in touch with Meng Yao. If Meng Yao didn't participate, why would he even bother with the zoo? He didn't have the time to do that. There were more profitable projects waiting for him. That's great. I'll get someone to send the lion to you later, Yushu said. Jiang Wen left Meng Yao's house, troubled. He felt helpless. Nothing good ever happened to Yushu. This girl always found trouble for him. What the hell? Meng Yao couldn't help but smile at Shu's actions, but she didn't stop her. One was willing to get hit, and the other was willing to suffer. With Shu here, other than Lin Yi, she'd take advantage of everyone else. Jiang Wen was asking for it. Shu, do you think that Dad's incident really has nothing to do with Jiang Wen? Meng Yao said helplessly as she looked at the evidence on her phone. Who knows? This guy might not even be telling the truth. Yushu doesn't have a good impression of Jiang Wen, but there's evidence. Meng Yao said, That's true, but we'll have to wait until Uncle Chu wakes up. Yushu said, Hidden House Yu Bing's letter had arrived. If it were any other disciple of the Ice Palace, they wouldn't be able to enjoy this kind of treatment. But Yu Bing could write a letter to his family once a month, and he could even receive letters from House Yu through the Ice Palace. The other outer sect disciples had to be in the sect for at least a year before they could enjoy the privilege of writing letters to their families. But Yu Bing had the care of the future sect master of the Ice Palace. Not only did he receive more elixirs than the other outer sect disciples, but he also had more privileges than the other outer sect disciples. But even so, no outer disciple dared to object. Who told him to be so close to the future sect master of the Ice Palace? This time, Yu Xiaoqin's letter gave Yu Bing quite a shock. Xiaochen questioned Yu Bing in the letter. Why did he hide the fact that Lin Yi participated in the tomb robbery and that he got the qi gathering pill? Yu Bing, on the other hand, thought that his father knew everything when he saw the letter. He quickly explained everything, admitting that he knew that Lin Yi had participated in the tomb raiding and that he had a qi gathering pill with him. But he couldn't be loyal at the same time, and he couldn't betray his friend, so he hid it from his father. In truth, Yu Bing's explanation was because he thought that his father knew everything. He didn't know that it was all a coincidence. Yu Xiaoqin didn't know the truth of the matter and only heard Yu Huixing's side of the story. That was why he wrote such a vague letter to Yu Bing. He didn't want to expose himself, so naturally he didn't say too much. He only asked a few general questions, but Yu Bing had a guilty conscience, and so this was the result. If Yu Huixing knew about this misunderstanding, he'd probably be laughing so hard that he wouldn't be able to close his mouth. He just randomly made up a lie to frame Lin Yi, and now Yu Bing was telling the truth. Even the heavens were helping him. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1819. Looking at the letter in his hands, Xiaoqin's face darkened even more. After confirming Yu Huixing's words, Xiaoqin immediately went to the mountain, where the old Yu was in isolation. Under Yu Yi's lead, Xiaoqin once again met the old Yu. Saint Hall, father, Yu Bing's reply is here. Xiaoqin didn't waste time with pleasantries and went straight to the point. Oh, what did Yu Bing say in the letter? Old ancestor Yu opened his eyes and asked. Yu Huixing didn't lie. Lin Yi did participate in the tomb raiding, and he did have the qi gathering pill. Xiaochen said as he handed the letter to the old Yu. The old Yu took the letter and read it quietly, as if he was very serious. Xiaochen didn't want to disturb him, so he stood to the side and waited for the old Yu to finish reading. It was obvious that the old Yu liked Yu Bing a lot, Otherwise, he wouldn't be reading the letter so seriously. After a while, the old you put down the letter in his hands and sighed. I wanted the other hidden houses to break the rules and send out their Earth class, but I didn't think that the first to make a move would be us. House you. Father, you're preparing to make a move on Lin Yi? Xiao Qian was happy as he asked. Saint Holif, his father, supported him. Then they might be able to get the Qi gathering pill back, and he would have a high chance of breaking through to Sky Class. Of course, he didn't think that Lin Yi had already eaten the Qi gathering pill, as it would only have the greatest effect when an Earth Class late phase peak was breaking through to Sky Class. Taking it before was a waste of a heavenly gift. If you become a Sky Class as well, then House you will have nothing to worry about for the next 100 years. The old you said, this is your hope, so of course I'll give it my all. Since we've confirmed that it was Lin Yi who took the pill, then let's fulfill Yu Huixing's wish. Kill Lin Yi and get the pill back. Kill Lin Yi? Xiao Chen raised an eyebrow. Yu Bing! Sooner or later, he will understand that the interests of the family are greater than anything else. Elder Yu said, this time we'll let Yu Lu go. Although it's said that Lin Yi went crazy, we don't know if it's true or not. Yu Lu is an Earth Class mid-phase peak. Even if Lin Yi is faking it, he can still beat Lin Yi. Yes. Xiao Qian nodded. Then I'll go arrange it right away. And go talk to Yu Huixing. You know what to say, right? Old ancestor, you said. Of course. Yu Xiaoqian said, I'll make sure that Yu Huixing remembers this favor after helping House Yu get their revenge. Count this as repayment for House Zhao stealing his Qi gathering pill. All right, off you go. Old ancestor, Yu waved his hand. After Xiao Chen left the old ancestor's training grounds, he sent for Yu Huixing. Greetings, head Yu. Yu Huixing said respectfully. He didn't know why Yu Xiaoqian was looking for him all of a sudden, but he wasn't afraid. Ever since he was told to pretend that the Zhaos had taken the Qi gathering pill, he knew that everything would be fine. No one would pursue this matter anymore. Even if someone did pursue this matter, Yu Huixing would be able to push all the blame away. Huixing, Yu Bing has sent a letter confirming your story. Lin Yi did participate in the grave robbing, and he was the one who stole the Qi gathering pill. Xiaoqian said, Ah. Yu Huixing paused. Had Yu Bing lost his mind? What the hell did Lin Yi participate in the grave robbing? Plus, the Qi gathering pill wasn't stolen by Lin Yi. He was the one who gave it to House Zhao. Why did Yu Bing admit to his story? Before, Yu Huixing was relieved, but he was afraid that something would happen to Yu Bing. If Yu Bing had clarified things, then House Yu would definitely believe Yu Bing's words, not Yu Huixing's. So Yu Huixing was hoping that Yu Bing wouldn't be able to write letters in the Ice Palace, but he didn't think that Yu Bing would actually reply to him. What was even more unexpected was that Yu Bing actually confirmed his story. Was Yu Bing out of his mind? But despite his doubts, Yu Huixing was still very happy. No matter what reason Yu Bing had, confirming this was beneficial to him. After a moment of shock, Yu Huixing quickly said, That's how it is, that Lin Yi is extremely despicable. Not only did he destroy our common House Yu, he even stole the Qi gathering pill that belonged to you. Head Yu. What a heinous crime. That's right. This Lin Yi is indeed despicable. So after my father and I talked about it many times, he finally agreed to send people to avenge your common House Yu. Xiaoqian said, knowing how to buy people's hearts. Thank you, head Yu and elder Yu. Yu Huixing's heart was filled with gratitude. The common House Yu basically only existed in name now. Yu Huixing was filled with hatred. But after hearing that Lin Yi had become an Earth Class, he didn't have the courage to take revenge anymore. If the hidden House Yu didn't help, then unless he became a higher class master, he wouldn't be able to do anything to Lin Yi at all. Plus, he was someone who was especially afraid of death. Before he completely suppressed Lin Yi's strength, he wouldn't do anything rash. You're welcome. This is what we should be doing. The common House Yu may not have a successor, but you can support a few other relatives. I heard that Yu Haitian isn't bad. Let him and Yu Kuin take care of House Yu together, Xiaoqin said. But House Yu will just be doing business from now on. Don't participate in training anymore. Yes. Yu Huixing sighed heavily. If the common house Yu stopped training, then what difference was there between them and normal businesses? This meant that the common house Yu would be completely marginalized from now on. They wouldn't have the glory they had before. But this was the best solution. At least the hidden house Yu would still support House Yu. Otherwise, it was hard to say if House Yu could survive. Without a practitioner, any house with a practitioner could step on them. This time, I'm going to let Lu go find Lin Yi for revenge. Is there anything else you want to say? Xiaoqin asked. Nothing. It's all up to you, head Yu. Yu Huixing wanted to say that he wanted to take revenge himself, to kill Lin Yi with his own hands. But in the end, he didn't have the courage to say it because he was afraid of dying. He was afraid that Lin Yi was faking it. Even if Yu Lu, an Earth-class mid-phase peak, went with him, he was afraid that Yu Lu wouldn't be able to protect him. And so, Yu Huixing gave up when it came down to it. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1820. Xiaoqin naturally didn't say anything. He told Yu Huixing to leave and went to find Yu Lu. Yu Lu, I'll give you a mission this time. Yes. House Head Yu, please instruct me. Yu Lu was a direct descendant of House Yu, and he was extremely loyal to House Yu. He was a brainwashed loyalty. Whatever Xiaoqin told him to do, he'd do it. Heart, go to Songshan and help me get rid of someone. Then get the qi gathering pill back from him, Xiaoqin said. Yes. Yu Lu didn't even think about it. Please tell me, House Head. This person's name is Lin Yi. I'm sure you've heard of him. Here's his information and address. When you get there, just deal with him directly. As for the people around him, Xiaoqin paused before continuing seriously. Don't touch the people around him, especially the 2 girls with him. Don't hurt them. Every debt has its debtor, and we, House Yu, can't be too domineering. We just need to find trouble with Lin Yi. I understand. Yu Lu nodded. In actuality, Xiaoqin didn't need to explain so much. There was no doubt about Yu Lu's loyalty. Whatever Xiaoqin said, he'd do it, unlike Yu Huixing, who still had some ulterior motives. Holy Hall, all right, you can go now. Xiaoqin said to Yu Lu after giving his orders. Yu Lu, on the other hand, disappeared in a flash. An Earth-class mid-phase peak was extremely fast. Later that night, Yu Tian and Ling Shan came to visit Meng Yao, Yu Shu, and Lin Yi. Yu Tian got the news from Yu Shu, so he came to the villa. As for the news of Lin Yi's deviation, he got it from another source. Meng Yao and Yu Shu weren't as hostile towards Ling Shan as they were before. They knew the results of the Noble House meeting, and Ling Shan was now on Lin Yi's side. While the Vixen liked Lin Yi, she was still a mystic late-phase peak. While Lin Yi was unconscious, she could be a helper protecting Lin Yi. Brother, Fox Song. Yu Shu opened the door. Shu, don't say that, call her Ling Shan sis. Yu Tian scolded. Still not Ling Shan sis. She wants to be Shield Bro's wife. I'm just a small wife, but she's at least 6 or 7. You should call me Shu sis. Yu Shu said. Heart. Ling Shan, don't mind her. Shu's just like that. Yu Tian didn't know if he should be laughing or crying at Shu's behavior. It's fine. I'll follow the rules when I come in. Ling Shan looked at Yu Shu and said faintly, But I don't think Lin Yi has ever acknowledged you as a small wife, right? What's wrong with calling you Shu sis when he does? Yu Tian smiled bitterly at Ling Shan's words. He didn't expect Ling Shan to be so sharp with her words. All right, Ling Shan. Shu, stop arguing. Boss Lin, he hasn't woken up yet. Who's going to be the small wife? Yu Tian said. Yeah, Shu, stop arguing. Yunyan has already entrusted Lin Yi to us. What's there to argue about? Meng Yao was talking about Shu, but she was also telling Ling Shan about their relationship with Lin Yi. Ling Shan smiled and didn't say anything. Bro, do you want to see Shield Bro? Yushu asked. That's second. I'm here to remind you guys not to stay in the villa. You guys should move out and find a more secluded place to stay. Yutian said, according to our experience, if the news of Boss going crazy gets out, his enemies might come for revenge. It's too dangerous for the two of you to stay here alone. Ah, Meng Yao couldn't help but gasp. She had forgotten about this before, and now that Yutian reminded her, she suddenly remembered the time when Lin Yi was injured and fainted, and the noble houses came to him at the same time. She still had lingering fear when she thought about the situation at that time. Lin Yi had woken up at the critical moment, but what about now? It was impossible for Lin Yi to wake up now, and if more enemies came to their door, there was only one way. According to the information I received, at least the hidden house pie behind Xiao family and the hidden house you behind house, you won't let this go easily, so you guys better leave here as soon as possible. If these two houses send masters, Yutian bro, and I won't be able to fight them even if we work together, Lingshan said. Thanks for the reminder, we'll pack up now. Meng Yao nodded decisively after listening. She didn't have the slightest bit of nostalgia for this huge villa. Since it wasn't hers anymore, what was the point of living here? When Lin Yi woke up, she could buy a bigger villa. Meng Yao had always been confident in Lin Yi, but she didn't know where this confidence came from. Was it just because of Lin Yi's tall figure during the bank robbery? We'll help you. We'll only pack the important things, the things that are meaningful to you guys. Leave the other furniture and appliances here, Yu Tian said. Okay. Meng Yao nodded and started packing with Yushu, Yu Tian, and Lingshan. An hour later, Meng Yao and Yushu were panting as they tossed a couple of bags onto the car in the yard. These were all the useful stuff they'd packed, including a change of clothes and underwear, and a laptop with some photos and other important documents on it. The other computers had all been erased from the computer. Lin Yi didn't have many things, other than a few tattered clothes in his room. There were the clothes Meng Yao bought for him. Meng Yao packed these clothes together with some unknown things in Lin Yi's drawer. Finally done. Meng Yao breathed out in relief. She looked at the things that couldn't be taken away and shook her head. Goodbye, villa. From the moment she stepped out of the villa, she might never come back again. But just when Meng Yao and Yushu put Lin Yi in the car and were about to leave, something unexpected happened. An uninvited guest came to the villa's doorstep, and even with Yu Tian and Lingshan's strength, they couldn't tell how this person got here. It was as if he just appeared out of thin air without any warning. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1821. Stalling for time. Who's Lin Yi? The person asked directly. Get him out here. Who are you? What are you doing here? Yu Tian was shocked as he barked at the person. This person gave him a sense of danger, and his instincts told him that this person was very strong. Lingshan was shocked as well. She and Yu Tian had guessed that after the news of Lin Yi's deviation, someone would come looking for trouble with Lin Yi, but she didn't think that someone would come so soon. She wasn't sure of the person's identity, but it looked like he was definitely here to cause trouble. Otherwise, he wouldn't have asked for Lin Yi's whereabouts right away. I'm Yu Liu, under orders from the head of the Hidden House Yu to find Lin Yi and avenge the Common House Yu. I don't want to kill innocent people. Get Lin Yi out here. With Yu Liu's status and strength, naturally he wouldn't hide who he was. He wasn't afraid that someone close to Lin Yi would go to the Hidden House Yu for revenge. In the Hidden House Yu, there were 2 sky-class masters overseeing the place. If he dared to go there for revenge, he would be courting death. Lingshan and Yu Tian looked at each other, understanding what was going on. It was the Hidden House Yu, after all. They didn't expect them to come this fast. Lin Yi's deviation, and he hasn't come back. Don't you know? Lingshan said. Qi deviation. Yu Lu said coldly. Maybe it's true, but he hasn't come back. I don't believe it. Who's in the car? Yu Lu was a very loyal person, trained by House Yu. But that didn't mean he was an idiot. On the contrary, Yu Lu's training had trained him to be very meticulous. He could tell at first glance that these people were moving. As for why they were moving, it was obvious. They probably knew that their enemies would come looking for trouble, and so they wanted to leave first. Yu Lu locked his eyes on the car in the yard. Lingshan and Yu Tian looked at each other and yelled, "Yao Yao, Shu run! We'll handle this." With that, Lingshan and Yu Tian charged at Yu Lu, one on the left and one on the right. Meng Yao and Yu Shu were very nervous in the car, not expecting something like this to happen right before they left. Someone came looking for trouble, and they didn't know what to do. They were afraid that this person would do something to Lin Yi, but Yu Tian and Lingshan yelled. Meng Yao subconsciously started the car, stepped on the gas, and the car shot out of the villa like an arrow, speeding away. Yu Lu's eyes darkened. He didn't think that two late-phase peak mystic juniors would dare to attack him first. He could have easily dealt with Lingshan and Yu Tian. But Yu Lu hesitated as he remembered Yu Xiaochen's orders before he left to target Lin Yi and not hurt the innocent. Although Yu Xiaochen was talking about the two girls beside Lin Yi, Yu Lu didn't know if he was talking about these two as well. He didn't know why Xiaochen wanted him to target Lin Yi, but he didn't question it. He carried it out, and because of that he hesitated, not knowing how to deal with Lingshan and Yu Tian. And it was this moment of hesitation that gave Meng Yao the chance to drive away. Otherwise, with Yu Lu's skills, it would be a piece of cake for him to stop Meng Yao and Yu Shu. "Move, or I won't go easy on you," Yu Lu warned faintly. Meng Yao and Yu Shu had left, but Yu Lu was confident that he could catch up to them in a short amount of time. After all, there were only a few roads in the villa area, and with his speed he would be able to find them. In order to make these two retreat, Yu Lu channeled his practitioner's arts as well, and in an instant his Earth-class mid-phase peak was on full display. His chi pressed down on Lingshan and Yu Tian. Lingshan and Yu Tian's faces changed. They knew their opponent's strength now. It was an Earth-class mid-phase peak. If they were facing someone who just entered Earth-class early phase, Lingshan and Yu Tian would have a chance if they worked together. But this was an Earth-class mid-phase peak. They had no chance at all. They weren't Lin Yi, and they didn't have the ability to fight someone stronger than them. Facing someone this much stronger than them, there was only one possibility: defeat. "I'm a police. You're trespassing on private property. Come back with me for investigation," Lingshan said. Rain Six paused. He'd thought that these two would be suppressed by his aura and retreat, or maybe they'd come at him without a care for their lives. But he didn't think that Lingshan would say something like this. Trespassing? Yu Lu scratched his head, but didn't do anything. He explained, "I'm from a hidden house." "I understand. I'll notify the investigation department," Lingshan said. Yu Lu was about to say that he was from a hidden house, and that he was bound by the association. But when he saw the cunning look in Lingshan's eyes, he understood immediately. This person was trying to stall for time, giving the other side a chance to escape. With that thought, Yu Lu didn't bother with Lingshan anymore. He turned around, wanting to chase after Yu Shu and Meng Yao. Lingshan and Yu Tian understood immediately that Yu Lu understood. Lingshan's words did stall for time, but they couldn't guarantee that Yu Shu and Meng Yao wouldn't be able to escape. They stood in front of Yu Lu, not letting him leave. "Move, or I won't go easy on you," Yu Lu said coldly. "Two mystic late-phase peak. Are you guys tired of living?" At this point, Yu Lu had guessed that these two were from noble houses as well. He didn't know which noble house they were from, but they were definitely with Lin Yi. Yu Lu was raging inwardly. These two mystic juniors were messing up his plans, and he wanted to kill them immediately. But remembering what Xiaochen had told him, he didn't do it. After all, he didn't understand what Xiaochen meant. Xiaochen's words were very vague, and Yu Lu didn't know if Xiaochen only wanted the two girls with Lin Yi to be harmed, or did he want everyone else to be harmed? After all, Xiaochen had added that house you had a debtor, and he couldn't be too domineering. Target equals underscore blank. Chapter 1822. Us two juniors are untalented. We'd like to experience your strength. Yu Tian forced himself to speak to Yu Lu. Yu Lu frowned. He didn't expect these two to be so persistent. A wave of frustration rose in his heart as he pushed his palms out, one on the left and one on the right. It seemed like he was pushing them out randomly, hitting Lingshan and Yu Tian on the left and right. An Earth-class mid-phase peak and a mystic late-phase peak were worlds apart. They couldn't be compared at all, especially with Yu Lu's skills. He could kill Yu Tian and Lingshan with ease. But Yu Xiaoqin's warning made Yu Lu cautious. He used his skills. He didn't use his full strength, only sending Lingshan and Yu Tian flying. They wouldn't be heavily injured. But some light injuries were unavoidable. Lingshan and Yu Tian's bodies flew out, one on the left and one on the right. Both of them felt sorrow. They couldn't even take a single hit from Yu Lu. They didn't even see how Yu Lu did it, and they were already flying out. This meant that the difference in strength between the two was just too huge. Yu Tian and Lingshan's thoughts of risking their lives was a joke. If Yu Lu wanted to kill them, they'd be dead already. But be it Yu Tian or Lingshan, they didn't know why Yu Lu would go easy on them. Looking at how aggressive he was when he came for Lin Yi, he didn't look like a merciful person at all, did he? But this was a question that would never be answered. After sending Lingshan and Yu Tian flying, Yu Lu disappeared into the night, chasing after Yushu and Meng Yao. At this moment, Meng Yao's jeep was parked quietly under an overpass. Meng Yao, on the other hand, was carrying a huge pile of bags, waiting quietly under an overpass. Yushu was carrying Lin Yi on her back. The two of them ran with all their might in the dark night. The two knew that Yu Lu would definitely chase after them, so Meng Yao abandoned the car. They changed to walking, although it was harder, but at least they wouldn't expose themselves easily. Full. Meng Yao was already out of breath. She didn't know where the energy came from, but she had 2 bags in her hands. He did not feel tired at all. Yushu, on the other hand, ran as fast as she could with Lin Yi on her back. In a dangerous situation, a person's potential was limitless. However, the potential of these 2 people was obviously stronger than that of a normal person. Sky, Thunder Pig, and General Weiwu, on the other hand, each carried more than 3 bags, but they ran very fast as well. This bit of weight seemed to be nothing to them. It was just that there was a limit to how much space they could carry on their bodies. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a problem to hand over the 2 bags in Meng Yao's hands and choose Lin Yi. Yao Yao, how much longer do we have to run? I'm running out of energy. Yushu and Lin Yi had been running ever since they got off the overpass, and they'd already run 1,000 meters. Find a secluded place, at least one of those back alleys. Meng Yao said, your shield bro is dead meat if he gets caught. Oh, then Shu's full of energy again. Yushu gritted her teeth. Oh, Meng Yao was a little speechless. This Shu, the moment she mentioned that Lin Yi was in danger, she'd go all out in her little universe. In front of them was an old building district. This was one of the earliest buildings in Songshan, but it was also the most dilapidated one. The buildings here were all decades old, and most of them were 3-story red brick houses. Because of the problems with the planning, they didn't consider things like roads, so there were only alleys between the buildings, and the alleys were all enclosed by the residents on the first floor, turning it into their own yard. Dirty, messy, and broken. This was Meng Yao and Yushu's first impression. If it weren't for this escape, they wouldn't have come to a place like this no matter what. Perhaps they wouldn't come here for the rest of their lives, but Meng Yao purposely chose this place today. First, there were more obstacles here. The boxes were narrow, and the front of the yard was filled with junk. It was easy to find a hiding spot. Second, cars couldn't enter this place, and the 2 left in their car. If Yu Lu didn't see them hiding in the parking lot under the overpass, he wouldn't have thought that they were in an alley like this. Let's rest for a bit, Meng Yao said to Yushu, who was panting heavily. She really couldn't walk anymore. Okay, Yushu might have gone all out, but she was exhausted as well. Naturally, She agreed with Ming Yao's suggestion. The two found a pile of junk in front of a house and hid behind it carefully. Yu Lu chased after them, walking on the rooftops and telephone poles. He could see the streets below, and as an Earth-class mid-phase peak, it was a piece of cake for him. Yu Lu was furious. If it weren't for Yu Tian and Ling Shan, he would have caught up to Meng Yao and Yu Shu long ago. But now, he could only rely on his instincts to search the area. Finally, Yu Lu's eyes landed on the parking lot under the overpass. There weren't many cars in the parking lot at night, and if he looked carefully, he would be able to find Ming Yao's Jeep easily. The next moment, Yu Lu appeared beside the Jeep. He touched the car's hood, a cold smile on his face. He leaped up again, jumping onto the overpass. A driver who was passing by suddenly saw someone appear on the bridgehead. He almost got into an accident, thinking that he'd seen a ghost. Yu Lu was observing the surrounding terrain. Since Meng Yao and Yu Shu had abandoned the car and walked, Yu Lu was thinking, which path would he choose if he were in their shoes? Finally, Yu Lu's eyes landed on an area of old buildings not too far away from the overpass. He could see what was going on in the other streets and neighborhoods, but that area of old buildings was built in a complicated manner. The tallest one was a 3-story building, and there wasn't a single place where he could get a good view of the entire area. This was the place. Rain 6 set his sights on this area of old buildings. If there was someone following him, then Rain 6 would have chosen this area as well, since there were too many places to hide and adapt to the situation. A small alleyway was all it took to lose his pursuer. After making up his mind, Yu Lu walked quickly towards the old building area. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1823. Yao Yao. That Yu Lu won't come after us, will he? Yu Shu had a bad feeling about this, as if Yu Lu could come after them. I don't know. Meng Yao looked at the closed doors of the houses, thinking how great it would be if they could hide in one of the houses. But she didn't know them, and even if they told her to hide in one of the houses, Meng Yao wouldn't dare do it. After all, they weren't familiar with the place, and who knew if they had bad intentions in the distance? A series of footsteps could be heard. It was especially clear in the empty alleyway, and Meng Yao and Yu Shu's hearts jumped. At that moment, the hairs on the two's backs stood up. They were wondering if Yu Lu had followed them here. The footsteps were getting nearer and nearer, and Meng Yao and Yu Shu subconsciously shrunk back. They were hiding behind a pile of junk, but if someone were to pass by, they'd still notice their silhouettes. Just as the person was about to pass by, the sound of coughing could be heard. It was the sound of an old woman coughing. Clearly, it was also the sound of the person who had come. Cough, cough. The cough made Meng Yao and Yu Shu relax. Thank goodness it wasn't Yu Lu. Not long after, a short old lady pushed a cart and slowly walked over. However, the old lady walked very slowly. Her eyes seemed to be sizing up the ground as she walked. She was a scavenger, and her cart was filled with broken cardboard boxes, bottles, and scrap metal. She looked around to see if there were any discarded bottles. When she passed by Meng Yao and Yu Shu, she saw the two curled up behind a pile of junk. The old lady's eyes flashed when she saw the two girls hiding there. She didn't know what they were doing here, but she subconsciously looked at them a few more times. Then, a look of disbelief appeared in the old lady's eyes. Fairies, you're the fairies. The old lady stopped in her tracks and cried out to Meng Yao and Yu Shu. Meng Yao and Yu Shu listened to the old lady's words. They froze for a second, but in the next moment, they recognized the old lady. She was the old lady who picked up scraps at the back door of Tiandi Entertainment. She was humiliated by Zhan Yingjun and Lin Yi transferred her disease to Zhan Yingjun. At that time, the old lady's chronic illness was suddenly cured. Naturally, she thought that Meng Yao and Yu Shu were fairies. After all, only fairies could do that, right? No matter how good a doctor was, he could only cure her illness. However, They could transfer their pain to the young man who bullied them. Only immortals could do this. With that, the old lady put down the car and was about to kneel down to greet Meng Yao and Yushu. Being able to meet a goddess once was already a blessing for her ancestors. One could imagine how excited the old lady was to be able to meet a fairy for the second time. "Granny, we're not fairies." Meng Yao subconsciously stopped the old woman from kneeling down. After all, they couldn't accept the old woman's kowtow. "You must be fairies. If you're not fairies, how can you cure this old lady's chronic illness? And how can you transfer the disease to that evil man?" "Did you transfer it to that evil person?" asked the granny. Meng Yao didn't know how Lin Yi did it, and so she couldn't explain it. If it weren't for the fact that Lin Yi had so many miraculous abilities, she would have been surprised if it was the first time she saw something like this. "Two fairies. If you don't mind, you can come to my house. I want to donate all my savings over the years as incense money to you," said the old lady. "You're not willing to accept this old lady's kowtow from me, but if you don't mind, you can come to my house." She was a grateful old woman, and she'd been scavenging for a living all these years. Her disability made it hard for her to move around, and the things she could scavenge every day were limited. But now that her legs were more agile, her income had increased greatly. She could now go to places she couldn't go before, and it was only natural that she was grateful to Meng Yao and Yushu. Meng Yao and Yushu looked at each other. The two weren't greedy for the old lady's incense money, but they were worried about finding a place to hide. Since the old lady invited them, and it was someone they knew, they weren't afraid of someone with ulterior motives. It was exactly what Meng Yao and Yushu wanted. "Sure, Granny, but we're not fairies. We'll tell you in detail when we get to your house." Meng Yao could see that the old lady was a kind person. She wouldn't pretend to be a fairy to trick her. Okay, that's great." The old lady couldn't stop smiling when she heard Meng Yao and Yushu's agreement. In fact, it didn't matter if Meng Yao and Yushu were fairies or not. The important thing was that the old lady had met her benefactors again. Being able to repay them was what made the old lady the happiest. Meng Yao lifted the bag, and Yushu carried Lin Yi on her back. The old lady paused when she saw the scene. "Fairies, let me help you carry this. How can I let you do manual labor?" "Granny, it's fine." But before Meng Yao could finish, the old lady took the bag from her hands easily and put it on the cart. Lin Yi, who was on Yushu's back, was also carried by the old lady. The scene stunned Meng Yao and Yushu. They didn't expect this skinny old lady to be so strong. The old lady smiled when she saw the shock. "I used to carry a sack on the streets when my legs weren't as good as before. What heavy things haven't I carried before? Now that my legs are healed, this is nothing." Meng Yao and Yushu calmed down after hearing the old lady's words. They walked forward with the old lady. The old lady, on the other hand, saw Skybolt Pig and General Weiwu on the ground. She blinked and rubbed her eyes. She was sure that Meng Yao and Yushu were fairies. In her entire life, she had never seen a pig that could walk on two legs and a dog that could carry things like this. If she wasn't a fairy, how could there be such a spiritual beast in the celestial world? Wasn't this something that only happened in the journey to the West? However, since she didn't want to admit it, the old granny didn't insist. Perhaps she was a fairy who had descended to the mortal world and wanted to keep it a secret. The old grandma's house wasn't far from here, and it was also on the first floor. The old grandma opened the door and let Yushu and Meng Yao in first, before closing the door behind them. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for me at Qijian. Your support is my greatest motivation. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1824. This is my house and it's a bit messy. Please don't mind. The old lady said. St. Hall, Grandma, we really aren't fairies. Besides, it's good enough that we have a place to stay. Meng Yao smiled bitterly. She didn't know why, but the old lady was so sure that they were fairies. With that, the old lady opened the door, and the group entered the house. The yard was messy with all sorts of junk everywhere, but the house was clean and tidy. The old lady lived in an old house with 2 bedrooms and 1 living room. There wasn't much decoration, and there wasn't any good furniture either. Even so, the house was clean and spotless. It was obvious that the old lady was a hard-working person. "Please have a seat, fairies. I'll make you some tea." The old lady placed Lin E on the sofa carefully. She didn't know what happened to Lin E, but she didn't dare ask if the 2 fairies didn't want to talk about it. The old lady recognized Lin E as the man who was with the 2 fairies at the back door of Tindy Entertainment. "Don't bother, Grandma, we really aren't fairies. Not only that, we have a favor to ask." Mang Yao quickly stopped the old lady from making tea. St. Hall not long after the 3 entered the yard, a figure appeared at the entrance of the alley. It was Yu Lu. Yu Lu's eyes looked coldly at the empty alleyway. He flew up to the top of a 3-story building, looking down at the alleyway, but he didn't see anything out of place. This was the innermost alleyway. He'd searched the other alleyways, but Meng Yao and the others weren't there. He'd thought that Meng Yao and Yushu would be hiding here, but they weren't there. Could it be that they really weren't here? Or did they think that I would definitely follow them to this alley when I saw them abandoning their car? So they deliberately didn't go here and chose the main street where it would be easier for them to be exposed? Yu Lu's face darkened at the thought. He felt that he'd underestimated Meng Yao and Yushu. The most dangerous place was also the safest place. Why hadn't he thought of that? Of course, Yu Lu didn't think that Meng Yao would know any friends or relatives in this old building district. After all, judging from the villa district they lived in, it was impossible for them to have any interaction with the people living here. St. Hall, Yu Lu sighed softly as he left the area, returning to the jeep under the overpass, trying to figure out the escape route Meng Yao and Yushu might have taken. Even if he found the right route, he might not be able to catch up to them. It had been a long time after all, and Yushu might have found a hotel and settled down by now. But no matter what, Yu Lu had to give it a try. Meng Yao wanted to find a place to stay, so she didn't hide anything. She told the old grandma about her, Yushu and Lin E being followed. She also explained that she and Yushu weren't fairies, but Lin E was a great doctor. He could cure her and create similar symptoms for Zhan Ingjun at the same time. The old grandma didn't think twice about Meng Yao's request to stay here for a while. She was a lonely old lady, and Meng Yao's arrival wouldn't bring her any inconvenience. Plus, the old grandma wanted to repay Meng Yao and Yushu, so she wouldn't reject them. "Although you say that you are not fairies from what this old woman has seen for dozens of years, even if you're not fairies, you are still extraordinary people. Being able to let you live here is the good fortune that this old woman has accumulated in her previous life. This old woman is truly very happy." The old woman said, "Thank you, Grandma." Meng Yao and Yushu finally let out a sigh of relief. They'd planned to find a more secluded hotel to stay in. But even if they could use Ling Yi's name to register, Yu Lu wouldn't be able to find them. After all, the 3 of them were too obvious, and 2 girls with an unconscious boy. He'd be able to find them easily if he went to any hotel and asked around. As long as Lin E stayed in the house and didn't come out, who would pay attention to an old lady who picked up scraps? "No need to thank me. I should be the one thanking you. I can't thank you enough for letting me enjoy the life of a normal person before I die," the old lady said. "By the way, you said that the young miracle-working doctor was in a coma because of illness. He must need to buy medicine. I don't have much savings in my life, but I'll give it all to you. It's a token of my gratitude to the young miracle-working doctor for treating me." Meng Yao and Yushu were in need of money, but they didn't want to take the old grandma's money. "Take this," the old woman said as she took out a bank book, handing it to Meng Yao and Yushu. "I've been an old woman for my whole life. My husband and kids are gone. I don't really need money. Meng Yao was shocked when she saw the number on the bank book. There was 100,000. She didn't think that a lonely old grandma could get so much money by scavenging. Maybe I'll lend it to you, and I'll return it to you later. Meng Yao thought about her father's situation and Lin Yi's situation. She accepted the bank book with a thick face. She needed money right now, and although Jiang Wen had sent over some of money, it wasn't enough to cover her father's medical expenses. Plus, Lin Yi's medical expenses weren't there yet. Haha, it doesn't matter if you return it or not. But you said someone was following you. Why didn't you call the police? The old grandma asked curiously. Meng Yao didn't know how to explain. That person is very strong and he's already a practitioner. Do you know what practitioners are? Practitioners? The old lady's eyes suddenly flashed with a strange light, but she quickly returned to normal as if she was reminiscing. After a while, she shook her head and said, I think I've heard of it before, but it's been too long, so I can't remember. Meng Yao nodded, not minding too much. After all, normal people didn't know much about practitioners. Even if they did hear about it, it was just a rumor. The only people who could see it with their own eyes were the bodyguards of big bosses. Target equals _ blank. Chapter 1825. It was naturally impossible for an old lady who scavenged for scraps to know anything about cultivators. They're very powerful people, similar to the martial arts masters of the ancient times. Meng Yao smiled bitterly. These people's kung fu is very high, and they appear and disappear unpredictably. I understand now. So you've offended a martial arts master. The old lady nodded. Then we'll settle down here first. I'm just a scavenger and no one will notice me. It's very safe here. Meng Yao nodded. Grandma, we'll go scavenge with you tomorrow. Meng Yao had decided that she had to do something. The money she had, along with the old lady's 100,000, was only enough to pay for her father's medical fees for a short period of time. If Lin Yi didn't wake up by then, she would have to continue paying for his medical fees to keep him alive. Although the hospital couldn't wake her father up, Lin Yi must have a way. She had to hold on until Lin Yi woke up, and she couldn't give up on treatment. Chapter 1840. Where would the money come from? Meng Yao had been thinking about this problem. She had thought about finding a place to work, but after you lose tracking, she knew that it was impossible. At least, she couldn't show her face in public. Scavenging with the old lady was Meng Yao's only choice. No one would have thought that the high and mighty miss of Pengzhan Industries would become a little girl who scavenged for scraps. Even Meng Yao herself didn't think that there would be a day where she would do this, let alone Yu Lu and the others. But from the moment Tang Yin made her decision and returned to the villa, Meng Yao's mind had changed. Miss? Without her father's halo, she was nothing. She couldn't even be compared to Tang Yin. So she didn't have any mental barriers following the old lady. She could rely on her own hands for Lin Yi and her father. There was nothing to be embarrassed about. There's no need. Just stay at home. I can handle it myself. I don't need to say much. I'll pay for the little miracle doctor's medical expenses every day. The old lady said with a smile, I've been picking up trash for decades. I'm experienced. Sanctuary. Grandma, the more people, the more we earn. Meng Yao said firmly. That's fine, but you two girls with delicate skin should wear masks. Otherwise, if someone sees you, they will be suspicious. The old lady hesitated for a moment and said, Meng Yao realized, to her surprise, that the old granny was actually very meticulous. She could think of details that even they couldn't. What kind of herbs do you need? I'll get them for you tonight, the old lady asked. Takira, the recipe is here. Meng Yao wanted to say that she wanted to go with the old grandma, but she was afraid of bumping into Yulu. After all, Yulu would be wandering around the area looking for them. Meng Yao said, Grandma, let General Weiwu go with you. He can protect you. It's already so late. I'm worried about you being alone. Haha, this old woman is also very famous in this area. Who would rob a rag picker like me? The old lady smiled faintly, but seeing Mingyao's insistence, she nodded and said, All right, I'll go with him. The General Weiwu you're talking about, is it this dog? Yes, General Weiwu. You go with Grandma to buy the medicine. Protect Grandma's safety, understand? Mengyao ordered General Weiwu. Woof woof. General Weiwu nodded, indicating that it understood. On the other hand, the old lady was a little surprised when she saw General Weiwu. Such a smart dog surprised her. Although she saw that the dog was carrying a lot of baggage, she didn't pay much attention to it. Many animals were stronger than humans, but now that she looked at General Weiwu, she couldn't help but let out a ha! She was full of surprise. What's wrong? Mengyao asked curiously. It's nothing. This dog is really smart. The old lady shook her head and said kindly to General Weiwu, Let's go. Follow me to buy the medicine. Woof woof. General Weiwu immediately followed the old lady out of the room. After the old lady left the room, Mengyao sighed deeply. Shoo, we're really lucky to have met the old lady. Otherwise, we wouldn't even have a place to stay. Yeah, Prophet Shu is really amazing. She asked Shield Bro to do a good deed, and now she's getting rewarded. Yushu nodded. Uff. Mengyao was speechless. If her prophecy had come true, then it would have been reasonable. But what happened today was just a coincidence. This girl really knew how to take credit for something. Naturally, Yulu wouldn't be interested in an old lady who brought a dog out to buy medicine. He looked around and didn't see Mengyao and Yushu, so he went to Yu Shaoqin to ask for forgiveness. Because of a small mistake, he'd missed a good opportunity, and he was filled with regret. But after listening to Yu Lu's explanation, Shaoqin didn't blame him. He only had himself to blame for not making things clear before, causing Yu Lu to be afraid. Shaoqin wasn't someone who didn't know what was good and bad, so he only asked Yu Lu to go to Lin Yi's villa and see if he could find anything. If he couldn't, then he'd give up for now. If Mengyao really wanted to hide, then Yu Lu alone wouldn't be able to find any clues. There was no need for him to waste his time. House Chu's villa. Ling Shan and Yu Tian had left a long time ago. The two were only lightly injured, and even they didn't know why Yu Lu was merciful. But no matter what, they were still alive. Mengyao and Yushu were gone, and they wouldn't stay in the villa for long. If Yu Lu came back, they wouldn't be a match for him. Without Mengyao and Yushu, they'd be idiots to fight Yu Lu head-on. And so, when Yu Lu returned to the villa, there was no one there. Yu Lu started searching from the first floor until he turned the villa upside down. He didn't find anything valuable. After finding nothing, Yu Lu left Songshan quietly and returned to the hidden house Yu. Under the dim light, Mengyao carefully sat in front of the stove, looking at the medicine in the pot. She'd followed Elder Zhang's instructions strictly, but what made her heart ache was that the medicine Lin Yi used cost more than 1,000 kwai. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1826. With difficulty walking, Part 2. This was only the price of the first prescription. The second prescription hadn't been filled yet, but the old lady had shown it to the owner of the pharmacy, and the price was even higher. Of course, this amount of money wasn't much to Mengyao and Yushu in the past, but it was a huge amount now. Mengyao was going to use the money she had to send to Faubert tomorrow for her father's medical fees, and it might not even be enough. Lin Yi's medical fees, on the other hand, would have to rely on scavenging every day. Not only that, but she also had to save up some money for Faubert. Mengyao felt a headache coming on as she thought about how to make ends meet. She'd never had to worry about money before, but this was the first time she'd experienced the pain of not having enough money. Yow, even if Shield Bro wakes up in a month, we'd have to pick up at least 5,000 kwai worth of trash every day just to survive. Yushu said as she calculated the daily expenditure. Lin Yi's medical fees and Pengzhan's medical fees were a huge sum. 5,000. Mengyao smiled bitterly. How was that even possible? Scavenging wasn't like picking up gold. How were they supposed to scavenge 5,000 yuan a day? Yushu shut her mouth after saying that. Luckily, the two had brought some jewelry with them when they left. They didn't like to wear jewelry normally, but they would still wear jewelry in formal occasions. It wasn't much, but they could still sell it for some money. It was just that it wouldn't be much, since the two didn't have any expensive jewelry. They only had normal stuff. The next morning, Meng Yao and Yushu changed into ragged outfits. They didn't think too much about it when they left, and only took their best clothes. Going scavenging in these clothes would definitely attract attention, and they'd take a photo and post it on the internet. They'd be labeled as the most beautiful scavenger girl, and it'd be too late for Yushu and Yushu to cry. They'd be waiting for Lu to find clues. Yushu's body was about the same size as the old grandma's, and she could fit into the old grandma's old clothes, but Meng Yao couldn't. Left with no choice, she found the most ordinary-looking clothes she had and made them very wrinkled and dirty. That way, the original value of the clothes couldn't be seen anymore, and it looked like something bought from the streets for a long time, something that hadn't been taken care of in a long time. The two of them looked at each other's sloppy appearance and couldn't help but smile bitterly at the same time. They never thought that they would be in such dire straits one day. It was easy to go from frugality to extravagance, but hard to go from extravagance to frugality. But in their hearts, this was nothing compared to what Tang Yin had done for Lin Yi. It was easy to go from frugality to extravagance, but hard to go from extravagance to frugality. But in their hearts, for Lin Yi, this kind of hardship was nothing compared to what Tang Yin had done. Thinking about how Tang Yin was willing to endure the torment of love for Lin Yi, Meng Yao and Yushu felt that at least they could stay by Lin Yi's side. Wasn't this a kind of happiness? Faubert only heard about the changes in the villa from Ling Shan and Yu Tian the next day. When he heard that Meng Yao and Yushu had run away, he didn't know if Lu had caught up to them, and he started to panic. Beside the ICU, Faubert subconsciously wanted to call Meng Yao after hearing Ling Shan's words. "Don't bother, we've already called them yesterday." Both of them turned off their phones. Ling Shan smiled bitterly. "Turned off? Did Lu catch them?" Faubert asked, shocked. "There are two possibilities. One is that they turned off their phones to avoid Lu's pursuit. After all, GPS isn't complicated, and if House Yu really wanted to, they could find them through their phone numbers." Ling Shan said, "The other possibility is that Lu caught them and turned off their phones, but that's less likely since Lu is looking for Lin Yi, not Meng Yao and Yushu. There's no point in catching them. So my analysis is that they've successfully escaped Lu's pursuit. Otherwise, if Lu really did catch them and make a move on Lin Yi, they'd contact us for sure. Yes, I can tell that Lu's target is Lin Yi. He doesn't even have the intention to hurt the people around Lin Yi. He gave me and Ling Shan a slap each yesterday, but we only got light injuries and were almost healed in one night." Yu Tian agreed. "That's good." Faubert breathed out in relief. But just as the three finished talking, Faubert's phone rang. Faubert took it out and saw that it was an unfamiliar landline. Faubert's heart sank as he picked up the phone. "Hello? Hello. Faubert, it's Yao Yao. Give me your bank account number. I have 200,000 with me. I'll transfer it to you to pay for Dad's medical fees. Don't stop the treatment," Meng Yao said worriedly. She didn't use her or Shu's phone. They had the same problem as Ling Shan. If Lu wanted to, he'd definitely be able to track their phones. So Meng Yao found a random public phone. The 200,000 included Jiang Wen's 100,000 and the old grandma's 100,000. As for the lion, Meng Yao didn't dare contact Jiang Wen again, so she had to let it go for now. 200,000? Faubert was a little surprised at how Meng Yao got so much money, but he was more worried about them and Lin Yi's safety. "Yao Yao, how are you and Yi? I heard that House Yu's Lu is after you?" "Yeah, we've successfully escaped. He didn't notice us. Meng Yao said we're safe now. Tell me your bank account number, Shu, and I will try to earn as much money as we can. As long as you're fine. Faubert breathed out in relief. Since Meng Yao didn't want to tell him where they were, Faubert didn't want to ask. After all, he was afraid that he'd be found out if he knew too much. It was better not to know. My bank account number is. With that, Faubert gave her his bank account number. All right, I'll remember it. I'll leave Dad to you, Meng Yao said after writing it down. Then you guys be careful, Faubert said. I know, Faubert, I won't contact you for a while. I'll transfer the money to you when I get it, Meng Yao said. As long as we hold on until Lin Yi wakes up, everything will be fine. I understand. Faubert nodded, relieved. Yao Yao, don't worry, I'll take care of Mr. Chu. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1827. Meng Yao and Yushu blushed when they heard Grandma Sun's words. They used to throw their old clothes away, and they often forgot to take out the change inside, but they didn't feel bad about it. Grandma Sun's words seemed to be mocking their old lifestyles. Meng Yao and Yushu knew that Grandma Sun didn't mean it that way, but they couldn't help but think of their old lives. In the past, they thought that they were already very frugal compared to those second-generation rich people, but now they realized that they were still very extravagant. Of course, if they were the ones in the villa Grandma Sun was talking about, they would probably make the same choice. 3,000 was a small amount to them in the past. If a kind person picked it up and gave it back, they would naturally think that the person was a good person and give it to him. But now that was then, and this was now. Of course, these are all things that we can't ask for. Our main source of income is still these bottles and paper. Grandma Sun didn't notice the unnatural expressions on Meng Yao and Yushu's faces. Oh, we'll continue scavenging. Yushu blushed. Shuamin's house. Holy Hall. There were a few people sitting here. They weren't familiar with each other, but they were all related to Shuamin and Lin Yi, so they gathered together. These people were Shuamin, Fatty Lai, Wu Qintian, Sun Jingyi, Lingshan, and Yutian. Lingshan and Yutian told Guan Shuamin, Fatty Lai, and the others about Lin Yi's predicament, hoping that they could think of a solution. But Yu Lu was from a hidden house, and none of the people here could go against a hidden house. Man, I wanted to talk to Din Qin and ask him to waive Pengzhan's medical fees, but Xiang refused. Shuamin said with a bitter smile. Guan Xiaoxiang had already fought with Guan Shuamin because of the bankruptcy of Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company. Guan Xiaoxiang reminded Guan Shuamin not to be cheated, but in the end, all of Guan Shuamin's money went into Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company, but it still couldn't save the company from bankruptcy. Once the capital chain of a rapidly developing pharmaceutical company was broken, it would be like a building that would collapse in an instant. There would be no room for recovery. That was why Guan Xiaoxiang took it to heart. When he was young, he wanted to use Shuamin's name to start a pharmaceutical company, but he was never allowed to do so. This time, he was naturally unhappy with those related to Lin Yi. Holy Church, Pengzhan's medical fees were, of course, official business. Not a single cent could be deducted. This time, everyone came to Shuamin's house to discuss Pengzhan's medical fees. After all, when Fatty Lai's company was in crisis, these people basically took out their personal savings. Now, they didn't have any money to take out. Man, if I hadn't sold my company earlier, I wouldn't be in such a tight spot right now. Sun Jingyi sighed. House Sun had tacitly approved Sun Jingyi's freedom of love, so Sun Jingyi sold her company and returned to House Sunday. Now, Lin Yi was in trouble, and Elder Sun froze Sun Jingyi's account, leaving Sun Jingyi with no money to use. Wu Qintian's old man, Wu Gonggao, was even more snobbish, and Qintian became penniless as well. As for House Song and House Qin, they didn't have any businesses, and their salaries couldn't afford Pengzhan's huge medical fees at all. It's all my fault. If I wasn't in a hurry to expand the factory, I wouldn't have ended up like this. Fatty Lai said, heartbroken. Forget it. This isn't the time to blame someone. Xiumin sighed. If it comes down to it, I'll put down my pride and talk to Dinchin. I don't need to deduct the medical fees. But can we postpone it for a while? As long as Lin Yi recovers, everything will be fine. Yeah, when boss recovers, we'll take back what we lost. Fatty Lai nodded. In the blink of an eye, a week had passed. Although they had General Wei Wu's help, the three's daily income was only around 500 to 1,000. There weren't many problems, and Lin Yi's medical fees were completely supported by the money that Grandma's son didn't have time to deposit in the bank. But seeing that the money was dwindling day by day, Meng Yao and Yushu were very worried. If this continued, there would be a day when they wouldn't be able to hold on until Lin Yi woke up. If it comes down to it, let's get Skybolt Pig to join the operation tomorrow, Meng Yao said. Skybolt Pig was currently staying with Lin Yi at home every day. Since Skybolt's body was too unique, Meng Yao didn't want to attract people's attention if she brought him out, but there was no other choice now. Skybolt Pig, Yushu suddenly had an idea. Skybolt Pig can look for treasures, right? Then can he look for trash? Yeah. Meng Yao blinked at Yushu's words, but then said happily, how did I forget that? Skybolt Pig can look for treasures, so he can look for treasures in trash too, right? Skybolt Pig, come here. Yushu waved at Skybolt Pig. Skybolt Pig seemed to have heard the conversation between Meng Yao and Yushu, and he walked over unwillingly. Can you find something valuable in the trash? Don't say no, Yushu said to Skybolt Pig. Skybolt Pig was speechless. What was the point of asking if he couldn't say no? He could only nod, feeling wronged. All right then, pretend to be a dog tomorrow. I'll give you some furry clothes, and you'll help us look for treasures, Yushu said. Pretend to be a dog? Skybolt Pig shook his head at that. He was different from humans, and he was used to not wearing clothes. Wouldn't he die of heat if he wore furry clothes all of a sudden? I'm telling you, if you don't help us look for treasures, Shield Bro won't wake up, and no one will help you level up. You'll just have to fend for yourself, Yushu threatened. Skybolt Pig wasn't scared at all, and he nodded quickly after hearing Yushu's words. He'll pretend to be a dog then. I'll depend on your performance tomorrow. Yushu nodded, satisfied. In fact, Meng Yao and Yushu didn't have much hope before Skybolt Pig joined the scavenger hunt. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1828. This little thing had a keen sense of smell when it came to heavenly treasures, but it was hard to say when it came to trash. Holy Church, however, if the Skybolt Pig really found a treasure of heaven and earth, wouldn't he be able to sell it for a lot of money? It was better than nothing. It was always good to try his luck. The next day, Meng Yao, Yushu, and Grandma's son brought General Wei Wu and Skybolt Pig with them. Grandma's son already knew the best route every day, so she followed the same route almost every day. But today, after walking for a while, the Skybolt Pig pointed in a direction with its paw and squeaked. Oh! Meng Yao hesitated, but decided to listen to the pig. Grandma's son, let's go in that direction. All right. Grandma's son didn't understand why Meng Yao would trust this piglet, but it was obviously different from normal pigs, so Grandma's son decided to trust it for once. Following Skybolt Pig, the three of them and General Wei Wu chased him all the way to a trash can in a residential area. Skybolt Pig pointed at the trash can with his claws and squeaked again. What's your name? If there's anything good, go pick it out. Yushu barked at Skybolt Pig. Holy Church, gee! The Skybolt Pig looked at the dirty trash can and felt wronged. It was an ancient spiritual beast and had never been treated like this before. But when he thought of saving Lin Yi, he could only walk towards the trash can unwillingly. Let this old woman do it for you. Grandma's son didn't mind. Rummaging through trash was a common thing for her. There was no psychological barrier at all. With that, Grandma's son began to rummage through the trash can. Soon, she found a few drink bottles and a few waste paper boxes from the trash can. However, these gains could only be regarded as ordinary. Such gains could be found in any trash can in any community. It was obviously not worth it to run so far for it. However, the trash can was almost empty. All the obvious things had been found by Grandma Sunday. There was probably nothing more valuable. Haha, let's just look for it step by step in the future. Grandma Sun put the cardboard boxes and bottles on the trolley and was about to leave, but the Skybolt pig pointed at the trash can and continued to squeak. Yushu was a little pissed off at Skybolt pig and was just about to yell at it when she heard the pig barking. Skybolt pig, are you saying that there's more good stuff in here? Yushu asked after a pause. Skybolt pig, are you saying that there's something good in here? Gee. The Skybolt pig nodded affirmatively. Takeru Grandma Sun was surprised to see a piglet that could understand human language. However, since it said that there were more, Grandma Sun believed it this time. She carefully rummaged through the trash can again. This time, she was more careful than the last time. Her eyes were no longer focused on the drink bottles and paper shells. Finally, at the bottom of the bin, Grandma Sun found an iPhone. Although the screen of the iPhone was obviously damaged, Grandma Sun tested it and found that the phone could still be turned on. In other words, the owner of the phone might have thrown it away after the screen was damaged and didn't bother to repair it. Grandma Sun picked up junk every day, and naturally, she had a lot of experience. It was common for her to find broken phones like this, and this iPhone only had a broken screen. If the other functions were normal, she could sell it to a second-hand phone shop for at least $1,000. This reward made Grandma Sun overjoyed. She didn't expect this little pig to have such abilities. The reward of this broken phone was equivalent to 2 days of her usual income. Can this broken phone be sold for money? Meng Yao looked at the excited Grandma Sun strangely and asked, Of course, this is the latest model. It's just the broken screen, and the other functions should be fine. If you sell it to a second-hand shop, you can sell it for at least $1,000. Grandma Sun said. Meng Yao's face turned red. This was the first time she knew that a broken phone like this could be sold for money. She would throw it away when there was a problem with her phone in the past. She would never think of selling it. Not bad, Skybolt pig. Yushu looked at Skybolt pig with praise. Continue if you can earn more money every day. Shield Bro will wake up soon, and I'll ask him to help you level up. Oink oink. Skybolt pig heard Yushu's words and nodded happily. After leaving the place, the three didn't return to their previous location. Instead, they started to pick up scraps on the streets of the district. This time, it didn't take long before Skybolt pig pointed at a direction and barked again. This time, Grandma Sun was experienced. Without Meng Yao and Yushu saying anything, she pushed the cart and followed Skybolt pig. She was afraid that if she was one step late, the good things would be taken by others. Skybolt pig led the way, and after a few turns, they came to another residential area. There was a family moving, and beside the moving company's car, there was an old refrigerator and some old furniture. Skybolt pig pointed at the old refrigerator and the old furniture and barked. Excuse me, do you not want these things anymore? Grandma Sun hesitated and walked to the moving company's car. She asked the person who was obviously the employer. Nope, I bought a new house. This thing is old, and it's not very useful anymore. If you want it, I'll give it to you. The employer waved his hand casually and said to Grandma Sunday. The refrigerator wasn't very old, and it looked like it could still be used. The furniture that was thrown away was a copper bedside table, some angle iron and wooden boards. This kind of copper bed was not popular anymore. The employer probably got rich and bought a new house, and these old things that affected the style of the house were definitely not going to be used anymore. Thank you very much, Grandma Sun said, and moved the refrigerator and the copper bedside table to the cart. According to Grandma Sun's experience, this refrigerator could be sold for at least $300 to $500, and the copper bedside table could be sold for a few hundred just by selling it as scrap copper. These two things added up to almost 1,000. The moving company workers looked at Grandma's son with envy. Obviously, they wanted to get these old things back from the employer, but they didn't expect that someone else would ask for it first. In the blink of an eye, 2,000 yuan was in her hands. Grandma's son really admired Skybolt Pig. With this little guy participating, it wasn't just scavenging, it was simply picking up money. In one morning, Grandma's son and the other two went to the old goods recycling market and the second-hand phone recycling market 3 times and got more than 3,000 yuan in one go. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1829. Please remember the domain name, or at Lin Yi's enemies were looking for Lin Yi. Even if Faubert was out in the open, no one would go after him. After all, Pingzhan was a cripple, and he could die at any moment. No practitioner would go after someone who was about to die. Besides, Pingzhan didn't have anything left anymore. There was no way a hidden house would do something like this without any benefits. It was a taboo for Earth-class masters to enter the common world, and attacking normal people was even more so. No one wanted to cross that line. After hanging up, Mengyao, Yushu, and the old grandma went to a nearby bank and transferred the 100,000 from the old grandma and Jiangwen to Faubert. Li Fu. When the money was transferred, the old lady glanced at the name on the money order and subconsciously read it out in her mind. Yes, it's Faubert's name. Have you heard of him, Grandma? Mengyao nodded. No. The old grandma shook her head. It's a familiar feeling, but I don't know him. Grandma, so your surname is Sunday. I'll call you Grandma Son from now on. Mengyao looked at the name on Grandma Son's bank book and found out that her surname was Sunday. I think it's Sun. It's been so long, I don't really remember it. I got this name when I moved here, Grandma Son said. Mengyao paused. She realized that Grandma Son always said that it was too long ago and she couldn't remember it. Maybe something happened to Grandma Son and she forgot about it? Or she didn't want to talk about it. But Mengyao wasn't a meddlesome person, so she didn't ask too much. After transferring the money to Faubert, the three left the bank and began their day of scavenging. The autumn sun was cruel. This was the meaning of the tiger of autumn. Under the hot sun, an old grandma brought 2 girls through the streets and alleys, searching through every trash can and every corner of the business district. This was a route that the old grandma had walked for many years, and the harvest every day was about the same. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't much either. At the end of the day, 200 to 300 yuan of income was already very good. It was a far cry from the 5,000 yuan that Xiao Shu expected. General Wei Wu, other dogs have sensitive noses. You should help. Mengyao saw that this wasn't going to work, so she started encouraging General Wei Wu. Woof, woof. General Wei Wu was a little troubled. He could teach a dog a lesson, or even a personal lesson, but picking up trash was something he'd never done before. He understood that Mengyao was doing this for Lin Yi's sake, and so he started learning from Mengyao and the others, going around the corners. With General Wei Wu's help, they managed to pick up a lot of waste paper and beverage bottles from places that weren't easily discovered. However, these could only increase their income by tens of yuan. It was impossible for them to earn more than 1,000 yuan. The day passed quickly, and Mengyao and Yushu realized that they only got 500 yuan today when they were counting their spoils. It was only a tenth of the 5,000 they needed. However, it was only 500 yuan, and Grandma's son was already very happy. According to her, on normal days, it was only a few dozen yuan. On holidays, it was no more than 300 yuan. Now that she had 500 yuan, it was already considered a lot. Mengyao and Yushu were silent. They knew that picking up trash wasn't a profitable business. Otherwise, everyone would have gone there already. After brewing Lin Yi's medicine, Lin Yi drank it, and Mengyao and Shu sat opposite each other, troubled. Their future was bleak and bleak. This was the true portrayal of their current mood. 500 yuan wasn't even enough to buy medicine for Lin Yi, let alone Pingzhan's medical fees. Shu, why don't we go to Yin Yan's house tomorrow and borrow some money? Meng Yao really didn't have a choice, but she knew that Mrs. Tang had a lot of money. She believed that Mrs. Tang would borrow money to buy medicine for Lin Yi. Yeah, that's the only way. Yushu nodded. However, what they didn't know was that Mrs. Tang had already been taken away by the people from the Snow Valley. First, Tang Yin was worried about her parents who were far away in Songshan, and second, she was afraid that her parents would say something to Lin Yi, making her waste her effort to give Lin Yi the forgetful grass. So the next day, when Meng Yao and Yushu came to Tang Yan's house, they found that Tang Yan's house was empty. According to the neighbors, there was no one there since a few days ago. At this point, Meng Yao and Yushu could roughly guess Tang Yan's intention. But the problem was that they didn't have Shui Gu's contact information. According to Shui Gu, after Tang Yin stayed there, it meant that they wouldn't be in contact with each other. Naturally, they wouldn't give them any contact information. Mrs. Tang couldn't be helped, and Yun Yun and Xiao Xiao couldn't be contacted. Meng Yao and Yushu could only rely on Old Lin. But while Old Lin had his own herb garden, and most of the ingredients were there, Pingzhan's medical fees were still nowhere to be found. Old Lin's herbs were barely enough to sustain Lin Yi's medicine, and Pingzhan's medical fees were nowhere to be found. Furthermore, the West Star Mountain Village did not have express deliveries, and Old Lin could not leave the West Star Mountain Village. It was a very troublesome matter to send the medicinal herbs to a courier company in a nearby town. By the time the medicinal herbs were sent out, it would be too late. Distant water could not put out a nearby fire. Helpless, Meng Yao and Yushu could only continue to scavenge with Grandma Sunday. But after 2 days of scavenging, Meng Yao and Yushu realized that there were many competitors in this line of work. Other than them, there were also other scavengers, and in this line of work, it was all about eyes and hands. It didn't matter who saw it first. The important thing was who got it first. According to Grandma Sun, there were different rules for scavenging in every city, and Songshan was the same. She had been following this rule for many years, so even if her legs weren't nimble before, she had trained her eyes and hands to be quick. And because of this, after she recovered, her scavenging speed was even faster, obviously faster than the other scavengers, and so her daily harvest was not bad. Actually, just relying on these waste paper and bottles every day isn't the most profitable. Grandma Sun said, "Sometimes you can put some in the trash in the residential area, and you can pick up some old furniture and appliances. These are the most profitable. Sometimes in some rich people's areas, you can find some change in the discarded clothes. It's not much, but sometimes it's at most a few hundred yuan. There was once, in front of a villa, I found 3,000 yuan in a leather jacket, and when I went to the villa to return the money, the villa's housekeeper only said thank you and let me leave. For the latest chapters, please log on. It's a pleasure to read, and I recommend you bookmark it. Target =_blank. Chapter 1830. Chapter 1842, Skybolt Pig's Treasure Hunt, Part 1. Meng Yao and Yushu blushed when they heard Grandma Sun's words. They used to throw their old clothes away, and they often forgot to take out the change inside, but they didn't feel bad about throwing them away. Grandma Sun's words seemed to be mocking their old lifestyles. Meng Yao and Yushu knew that Grandma Sun didn't mean it like that, but they couldn't help but think about their old lives. In the past, they thought that they were already very thrifty compared to some rich second generations who lived a luxurious life. But now they found that they were still very extravagant. Of course, if they were the people in the villa that Grandma Sun had mentioned, they might have made the same choice. 3,000 was a small amount to them in the past. If someone kind enough picked it up and gave it back, they would naturally think that the person was a good person and give it to him. But now, that was then, and this was now. Of course, these are all things that we can't ask for. Our main source of income is still these waste paper and bottles. Grandma Sun didn't notice the unnatural expression on Meng Yao and Yushu's faces. Oh, let's continue to scavenge. Yushu blushed. Guan Shuamin's house. There were a few people sitting here. They weren't familiar with each other, but they were all related to Guan Shuamin and Lin Yi, so they gathered together. These people were Guan Shuamin, Fatty Lai, Wu Qintian, Sun Jingyi, Lingshan, and Yutian. Lingshan and Yutian told Guan Shuamin and Fatty Lai about Lin Yi's predicament, hoping that they could think of a way to solve it. But Yu Lu was from a hidden house, and none of the people here could go against a hidden house. Man, I wanted to talk to Din Qin and ask him to waive Peng Zhan's medical fees, but Xiang turned me down. Shuamin said with a bitter smile. Guan Xiaoxiang had already fought with Guan Shuamin because of the bankruptcy of Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company. Guan Xiaoxiang reminded Guan Shuamin not to be cheated, but in the end, all of Guan Shuamin's money went into Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company, but it still couldn't save the company from bankruptcy. Once the capital chain of a rapidly developing pharmaceutical company was broken, it would be like a building that would collapse in an instant. There would be no room for recovery. That was why Guan Xiaoxiang took it to heart. When he was young, he wanted to use Shuamin's name to start a pharmaceutical company, but he was never allowed to do so. This time, he was naturally unhappy with those related to Lin Yi. Peng Zhan's medical fees were, of course, official business. Not a single cent could be deducted. This time, everyone came to Guan Shuamin's house to discuss Peng Zhan's medical fees. After all, when Fatty Lai's company was in crisis, these people basically took out their personal savings. Now, they didn't have any money to take out. Man, if I hadn't sold my company earlier, I wouldn't be in so much trouble right now. Sun Jingyi sighed. House Sun had tacitly agreed to Sun Jingyi's freedom of love, so Sun Jingyi sold her company and returned to House Sunday. Now Lin Yi was in trouble, and elder Sun froze Sun Jingyi's account, leaving Sun Jingyi with no money to use. Wu Qintian's old man, Wu Gonggao, was even more snobbish, and Qintian became penniless as well. House Song and House Qin, on the other hand, weren't families with much business. Their salaries wouldn't be enough to pay for Peng Zhan's medical fees. It's all my fault. If I wasn't in a hurry to expand the factory, I wouldn't have ended up like this. Fatty Lai said, heartbroken. Forget it, this isn't the time to blame. Guan Shuamin sighed. If it comes down to it, I'll put down my pride and talk to Din Qin. I don't need to deduct the medical fees, but can we postpone it for a while? As long as Lin Yi recovers, everything will be fine. Yeah, when boss recovers, we'll take back what we lost. Fatty Lai nodded. In the blink of an eye, a week had passed. Although they had General Wei Wu's help, the three's daily income was only 500 to 1,000. There weren't many problems, and Lin Yi's medical fees were completely supported by the money that Grandma Sun didn't have time to deposit in the bank. But seeing that the money was dwindling day by day, Meng Yao and Yushu were very worried. If this continued, there would be a day when they wouldn't be able to last until Lin Yi woke up. If it comes down to it, let's get Skybolt Pig to join the operation tomorrow. Meng Yao said. Skybolt Pig was currently staying with Lin Yi at home every day. Since Skybolt's body was too unique, Meng Yao didn't want to attract people's attention if she brought him out, but there was no other choice now. Skybolt Pig, Yushu suddenly had an idea. Isn't Skybolt Pig able to find treasures? In that case, can it find junk? Yeah. Meng Yao blinked at Yushu's words. How did I forget that? If Skybolt Pig can find treasures, then it should be able to find treasures in trash as well, right? Skybolt Pig, come here. Yushu waved at Skybolt Pig. Skybolt Pig seemed to have heard the conversation between Meng Yao and Yushu and walked over unwillingly. Can you find something valuable in the trash? Don't say no, Yushu said to Skybolt Pig. Skybolt Pig was speechless. What was the point of asking if he couldn't say no? He could only nod his head in grievance. All right, You'll pretend to be a dog tomorrow. I'll give you some furry clothes, and you'll help us search for treasures," Yushu said. Disguised as a dog, the skybolt pig immediately shook its head. It was different from humans. It was used to not wearing clothes. If it suddenly wore furry clothes, wouldn't it die from the heat? "I'm telling you, Shield Bro won't wake up if you don't help with the treasure hunt. No one's going to help you level up in the future. You'll be on your own," Yushu threatened. Skybolt Pig wasn't scared at all. After hearing Yushu's words, he quickly nodded in agreement. "Let's pretend to be a dog then. We'll see how you perform tomorrow." Yushu nodded in satisfaction. In actuality, Mengyao and Yushu didn't have much hope before Skybolt Pig joined the scavenger hunt. Target equals _ blank. Chapter 1831. This little thing had a sharp nose for treasures, but it was hard to say when it came to trash. Please remember, but if Skybolt Pig really did find a treasure, wouldn't he be able to sell it for a lot of money? It was better than nothing. It was always good to try his luck. The next day, Mengyao, Yushu, and Grandma Sun brought General Weiwu and Skybolt Pig with them. Grandma Sun already knew the best route every day, so she followed the same route almost every day. But today, after walking for a short while, the Skybolt Pig pointed in a direction with its paw and squeaked. "Oh!" Mengyao hesitated, but decided to listen to Skybolt Pig. "Grandma Sun, let's go in that direction." "Okay." Grandma Sun was puzzled as well. Why would Mengyao trust this pig? But this pig was obviously different from normal pigs. So Grandma Sun decided to trust it for once with Skybolt Pig. The three of them and General Weiwu chased it to a trash can. Skybolt Pig pointed at the trash can with his paw and squeaked again. "What are you squeaking for? If there's anything good, go take it out." Yushu yelled at Skybolt Pig. "Squeak, squeak." Skybolt Pig looked at the dirty trash can, feeling wronged. He was an ancient spiritual beast. He had never been treated like this before. But he had to save Linny, so he walked towards the trash can unwillingly. "Let me do it for you." Grandma Sun didn't mind. Digging through trash was a common thing for her. She didn't have any psychological barriers at all. With that, Grandma Sun began to rummage through the trash can. Soon, she found a few drink bottles and a few waste paper boxes from the trash can. However, these gains could only be regarded as ordinary. You could find something like this in any trash can, and it wasn't worth it to go this far. But the trash can was almost bottom. Grandma Sun had already found all the obvious stuff. There probably wasn't anything valuable left. Haha, let's just look for it step by step in the future. Grandma Sun put the cardboard boxes and bottles on the trolley and was about to leave, but the Skybolt Pig pointed at the trash can and continued to squeak. At first, Yushu was a little annoyed at Skybolt Pig for finding so little stuff in the trash. Just as he was about to reprimand it, he heard that it was still barking. He was taken aback and asked Skybolt Pig, "Are you saying that there's something good in there?" "Gee." The Skybolt Pig nodded affirmatively. Grandma Sun was surprised to see a pig that could understand human language. However, since it said there were more, Grandma Sun believed it this time. Once again, she carefully rummaged through the trash can. This time, she was more careful than the last time. Her eyes were no longer focused on the beverage bottles and paper shells. Finally, at the bottom of the bin, Grandma Sun found an iPhone. However, on the screen of the iPhone, it was obviously damaged, but Grandma Sun tested it and found that the phone could still be turned on. In other words, the owner of the phone might have been injured after the phone screen was damaged. He just threw it away and didn't bother to repair it. Grandma Sun picked up junk every day, so naturally she had a lot of experience. It was common for her to pick up broken phones like this. This iPhone only had a broken screen. If the other functions were normal, she could sell it to a second-hand phone shop for at least 1,000. This reward made Grandma Sun overjoyed. She didn't expect this little pig to have such abilities. The reward of this broken phone was equivalent to 2 days of her usual income. This broken phone, can you sell it for money? Meng Yao looked at the excited Grandma Sun strangely. Of course, this iPhone is the latest model. It's just a broken screen. The other functions should be fine. If you sell it to a second-hand shop, you can sell it for at least 1,000. Grandma Sun said. Meng Yao's face reddened. This was the first time she knew that a broken phone like this could be sold for money. She would throw it away when there was a problem with her phone in the past. She would never think of selling it. Not bad, Skybolt Pig. Yushu looked at Skybolt Pig with praise. Keep it up. If you can earn more money every day, Shield Bro will wake up sooner. I'll ask him to help you level up. Oink, oink. Skybolt Pig heard Yushu's words and nodded happily. After leaving the place, the three didn't return to their previous location. Instead, they started to pick up scraps on the streets. This time, it didn't take long before Skybolt Pig pointed at a direction and barked again. This time, Grandma Sun was experienced. She didn't need Meng Yao and Yushu to say anything. She pushed the cart and followed Skybolt Pig. She was afraid that if she was late, someone else would get the good stuff first. The Skybolt Pig led the way, and after a few twists and turns, they arrived at another residential area. A family was moving, and beside the moving company's car, there was an old-fashioned refrigerator and some old furniture. Skybolt Pig pointed at the old fridge and the old furniture and barked. Excuse me, do you not want this thing anymore? Grandma Sun hesitated for a while and walked to the moving car. She asked the person who was obviously the employer, I don't want it anymore. I bought a new house. This thing is old and not very useful anymore. If you want it, I'll give it to you. The employer waved his hand casually and said to Grandma Sunday, the fridge wasn't very old. It looked like it could still be used. The furniture that was thrown away was a copper bedside table, some angle iron and wooden boards. This kind of copper bed was not popular anymore. The employer must have gotten rich and bought a new house. These old things that affected the style of the house were definitely not going to be used anymore. Thank you very much, Grandma Sun said, and moved the fridge and the copper bedside table to the cart. According to Grandma Sun's experience, the fridge could be sold for at least 300 to 500, and the copper bedside table could be sold for a few hundred, just by selling it as scrap copper. Adding these two things together, it was almost 1,000. The moving company worker looked at Grandma Sun with envy. Obviously, they wanted to get these old things back from the employer, but they didn't expect someone else to ask for it first. In the blink of an eye, 2,000 was in her hands. Grandma Sun really admired Skybolt Pig. With this little guy's participation, how was this scavenging? It was simply picking up money. In one morning, Grandma Sun and the other two went to the old goods recycling market and the second-hand phone recycling market 3 times. They got more than 3,000 in one go. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1832. Recovering his senses in the afternoon, Skybolt Pig showed off his prowess. Not only did he find a lot of discarded cell phones and household appliances, he even found a couple of old bags from the Villa district. They were all from international brands, and he brought them to a second-hand shop and sold them for more than 10,000 kwai. His income for the day was close to 20,000 kwai. Grandma Sun was shocked, and she couldn't help but admire Skybolt Pig. Meng Yao and Yushu let out a breath of relief when they saw that Skybolt Pig was really able to find these valuable items. From now on, as long as they followed Skybolt Pig to pick up these things, they wouldn't have to pick up mineral water bottles, beverage bottles, and cardboard boxes anymore. With Skybolt Pig around, they would always be able to reach the places where the valuable items were thrown away. Although sometimes other scavengers would get there before them, and they wouldn't be able to find anything, but overall, Skybolt Pig was still very fast. With the help of the ice spirit, fruit, and medicine, Lin Yi slowly regained consciousness, and he woke up from his coma. However, he only woke up in the jade space, and he still couldn't feel his body. Lin Yi opened his eyes in the jade space, and he felt extremely hot all over his body. Every single meridian in his body felt like it was on fire, and it was very painful. "You're awake?" Jiao Yazi saw that Lin Yi had woken up, and he was surprised and happy at the same time. Jiao Yazi had been panicking all this time. He was just a phantom, and he couldn't do anything about Lin Yi's coma. He couldn't contact the outside world either, and he could only watch Lin Yi pass out every day. Although Jiao Yazi could feel that Lin Yi's body temperature was dropping, he couldn't guarantee that Lin Yi would wake up. It all depended on how the outside world treated Lin Yi. Now that Lin Yi had woken up, he could finally breathe a sigh of relief. "Jiao Lao, what happened to me?" Lin Yi asked in a daze. He remembered that he was cultivating before, and then he didn't know anything. "Previously, something went wrong in your cultivation and you went berserk. Don't you remember?" Jiao Yazi said. "Oh, qi deviation. Yes." Lin Yi nodded as he recalled the pain he had suffered during his cultivation. However, he did not know why he had suffered qi deviation. "But why did this happen? I'm not sure either. You'll have to find the reason yourself after you wake up," Jiao Yazi said. He could only communicate with the outside world through Lin Yi. Since Lin Yi was unconscious, Jiao Yazi naturally could not hear the conversation between Mo Kongwen and old Lin. "Wake up! How can I wake up?" Lin Yi tried, but unfortunately he could not return to the real world from the space in the jade pendant. He could not even communicate with the outside world. The people around you must have taken some measures to temporarily suppress the fire poison in your body. However, just relying on them alone is not enough. Jiao Yazi said, "The medicine from the outside world can only help you suppress and slowly refine the fire poison. However, once the fire poison is absorbed by your body, it will affect your body. It will do more harm than good. Therefore, it's best for you to force the fire poison out of your body yourself. This way, you can maintain the purity of the vital qi in your body, and it will be easier for you to cultivate the second stage of the art of dragon mastery." "Force it out of my body?" Lin Yi was slightly stunned. He then asked, "What do I have to do to force the fire poison out of my body?" "You can try to use the art of dragon mastery to guide the vital qi in your body to gather all the fire poison in your meridians. Then you can release the fire poison in one go, like how you released a vital qi bomb." Jiao Yazi said. "Gather it together? Can I find some and force some out?" Lin Yi asked. "That's fine, but can you wake up now? I mean your body in the outside world." Jiao Yazi asked. I can't." Lin Yi shook his head. "That's it," Jiao Yazi said. "You can't even wake up. How can you release your vital qi? Are you trying to release it into the space in the jade pendant? If you release it here, when you absorb the energy in the space in the jade pendant, you will be in danger of being sucked back at any time." "I see." Lin Yi immediately understood what Jiao Yazi meant. "In other words, I can only wake up when I gather all the fire poison in my meridians, right?" "That's it." Jiao Yazi nodded. "Man, I still have to force the fire poison out of my body. If I was like Zhang Naipeo, I wouldn't have to go through so much trouble." Lin Yi smiled bitterly. At this moment, he was envious of Zhang Naipeo. "As far as I know, yes." Jiao Yazi's answer surprised Lin Yi. "Yes?" Lin Yi was shocked. "But I can't do it now. But in my memory, you should be able to do it. Maybe you can do it in the future, but I might have remembered wrongly and mixed up the mantra in the chrysanthemum treasured book." Jiao Yazi shook his head. "My memory isn't unlocked. I only have a vague impression." "All right." Lin Yi heard Jiao Yazi's words and felt disappointed. Even if he could, now wasn't the time, and there was a chance that Elder Jiao might have remembered wrongly, messing up Naipeo's memories of the chrysanthemum arts. Right now, he needed to use the art of dragon mastery to guide the fire poison in his meridians compressing it together and forcing it out of his body. Calming himself down, Lin Yi focused all his energy and channeled the first stage of the art of dragon mastery. He started searching for the fire poison in his meridians. Lin Yi had the experience of repairing his own meridians multiple times before, so he was very familiar with the meridians in his body. He channeled the art of dragon mastery with ease, letting the pure energy flow through his meridians, searching for the fire poison in them. Of course, at the start, Lin Yi didn't focus on the parts of his body that were affected by the fire poison. Instead, he focused on his hands and feet, where there were fewer meridians. With fewer meridians, the fire poison would be less. Even if something went wrong, it wouldn't cause too much damage. Lin Yi carefully channeled the qi through his right arm and finally found the fire poison in his meridians. Strictly speaking, this fire poison was a mutated fire qi. It was mutated from Lin Yi's universal qi. But Lin Yi's art of dragon mastery was like a one-way converter. He could convert his universal qi into other kinds of qi, but he couldn't convert other kinds of qi into his own universal qi. Target equals _blank that you're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.